What's up and welcome back to KindaFunny's Halloween in Review. That's right, we are ranking and reviewing the entire Halloween DGG universe. That's what the kids out there are calling it. The David Gordon Green universe of Halloween movies. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, joined by It's Christmas in October, Joey Noel.
Hello, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
What day does this go live? Monday?
Friday.
No,
It's coming
Monday.
out today. Yeah. There you go.
Congratulations, everyone. You made it.
We have a man that I'm very, very excited to talk about this movie with, the weapons arbiter, Chris Anka.
Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
You said it.
Of course, you have the producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Guys, did you know that evil dies tonight? Spread the word.
How many times can we say it, do you think?
How many
37? Over or under?
How many times do you think they said that versus anyone can cook? Because I feel like
it's up there.
We're tied.
Yeah.
We're tied. Anyone can cook, Elise.
A very good point. And speaking of Elise, of course, we have Elise and James Willems joining us.
Coming to you live from San Francisco. That's right. You can't tell the difference at home, but we are here, and I brought donuts for the whole crew.
But we didn't. Many of them.
Most of them are gone because it's still a remote podcast.
I
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. James and Elise came up from LA to hang out with us to watch in the theater. We went to the illustrious restaurant known as Red Robin beforehand. James, what was that experience like for you? Did you get all the things that you wanted, that you ordered?
You know, it was a great experience. I was sitting across the table from Nick.
Yeah.
And we both kind of had a moment. We looked across the table at each other. We had a moment, and I said, I'm thinking about getting this colorful mixed drink. It was called a Tito's Blue Chill.
Yeah.
And it was Tito's vodka with blue curacao and a bunch of other stuff in it with some whipped cream and a cherry on top for some reason, even though it wasn't like really a sweet drink.
Didn't need it.
And I said, Nick, are we doing this? And he said, hell yeah, brother, let's do it. About 2 minutes later, the waiter returns and says, I'm afraid we're out of the blue stuff.
Literally to the blue stuff. He's like, you know the blue stuff? We don't have that blue stuff.
We're out of the blue stuff. And then and then he said, but my manager assures us that the orange stuff is just as good.
Just as good.
And so I said, Nick, are we in on this? And Nick goes, absolutely not. I'll have the lemonade or whatever. The spiked lemonade. I ended up getting the orange stuff, and I think it was just Fanta. I'm pretty sure it was orange soda or Fanta.
Andy had this beautiful purple drink, and then he kept making fun of my basic iced tea.
Yeah. So
rude.
Listen, it's exactly the kind of top shelf service you're going to get every time you go to a Red Robin.
And you gotta love the fact that Andy Cortez drove multiple cities, not that it's that far, but did drive multiple cities away to go to Red Robin with us, and then did not go to the movie with us.
In retrospect, he couldn't have handled this movie.
No, I told him that. I told him that this morning. We streamed It Takes Two for a little bit on our Twitch channel, and he's like, Nick, beforehand we started, he's like, could I have handled this? And I was like, absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. This movie's too scary. It's too gory for you. You'd have nightmares.
He wouldn't have been able to take the theater going experience because we can get into that too. But we had a unique viewing experience.
Yeah. We sure did.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay,
I don't
Are you serious?
Joey, the guy.
The guy.
Oh,
the guy dressed as Michael Myers, just sitting by himself in the front row.
I mean, we went to a theater, but everyone was masked, but some more than
That's
others.
awesome.
A dude walked in.
Really?
A dude walked in wearing a blue jumper and had a white mask on, and we were like,
he sat in the front row, and I turned to Joey, and I was like, if he's is psycho, I'm just gonna hide behind Nick.
I'm gonna shout, "Evil dies tonight," and I'm gonna head for the exit, the emergency exits.
It really was uncomfortable. There were moments where I was because he kept
I don't like Kevin at all. I don't like that.
I feel like I feel like someone told Tiny Kevin that anyone can cook.
No, but he kept getting up and leaving and then coming back before the movie started. And it was like, oh man, is this gonna get bad?
At one point,
collecting all the knives he hit around.
Those are all different guys. He kept changing. He kept passing the mask to someone else. Anyone can wear the mask, guys.
Did anyone else, did you notice that he had a friend that came and sat down next to him? Because at one point I was like, okay, I don't know if that's better or worse.
Oh, there's two of them.
Dude dressed as Loomis.
He's dressed with the, or he's Hawkins. He's just gushing blood out of the side of his neck.
You should also do you should have had a ghost face, then you should have had a Freddy, then you should have had a Jason. Just have them all.
The whole squad, yeah. I love that.
To it.
I don't like cheering him on. Like, yeah, Michael.
Has anybody caught what the kill count was in this movie? I'm trying to look at. Been looking at
more than 3 people. More than
22 is what 22. I think I have written here.
I tentatively want to say that's it.
Oh, but I had
felt like
28.
28. The body count is 28, including Karen Nelson, Tommy Doyle, Marion Chambers, Leigh Brackett, Lonnie Elam, Cameron Elam, Vanessa, Marcus, Big John, Little John, and more people. I just wanted to read enough names to be able to say Big John and Little John, which I'm sure we're going to talk about way more in this show because this is Kinda Funny's In Review, where each and every week we rank, review, and recap 2 different movies. Right now, we're closing out the Halloween DGG universe. But next week, we're returning to where it all began with MCU in Review. We are going to do What If, and then later in the week, we're going to do a Spider-Man rewatch, kicking off all the Spider-Man movies leading into Spider-Man No Way Home. Then the following week, we're going to begin our Ghostbusters in Review. And do not fret, do not worry. We already pre-recorded a ton of those with Greg Miller, so he will be a part of Ghostbusters in Review without that baby. And then we're going to be doing Last Night in Soho for Edgar Wright in Review, which I am extremely excited about talking about. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about Halloween Kills. You can get the show on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com if you wanted to get it as a podcast. Just search your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny in Review, and we will be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free and you wanted to watch live as we record it, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers Pranksy and Molecule have done. Thank you both so very much. Because of that, you will not need to hear our ads later for Babel, Overland, and Raycon that the rest of you will. But let's get started, everybody. Halloween Kills, a runtime of 1 hour, 45 minutes, making it the longest of this canon of Halloween movies. Not by much, but by a good 10 minutes. Released on October 15th, 2021 in theaters and on Peacock. So there you go. You can watch it now at home. Halloween Ends is scheduled to be released on October 14th, 2022. So we're less than a year away from the sequel to this movie, the conclusion to this era of Michael Myers. Once again, this was directed by David Gordon Green, very similar team to the one that created Halloween in 2018, and a very similar team to the team that will be working on Halloween Ends.
You wouldn't know it, Nick. You wouldn't know it.
Yeah, in some ways, in a lot of ways.
This movie's so different than the 2018 in so many different ways that we'll get into. But it surprises me that anyone from 2018 worked on this.
John, Lil John? That didn't feel familiar in any way?
First off, love Big John, Little John. Love that energy. Okay. Best part of the movie in my humble opinion. But the rest of the movie was very similar to like a high school play that I could have written back in high school. Very strange, very unfocused. Anyway, we'll get into it. Sorry.
Wow. Okay.
Music once again by John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, and Daniel Davies, who now is a legend. Last week I talked a lot of shit, but you know what? I got to give credit where credit is due. The budget of this one was $20 million, a little higher than the last movie's budget of $15 million, but a lot of that as well has to do with the increased marketing costs of getting ready to promote the movie and it all getting delayed an entire year. The box office, the film has already made almost $5 million from Thursday night previews, the biggest for an R-rated film of the pandemic era, and for horror films, it even surpassed A Quiet Place Part 2. So there you go. And just like the last movie, it does easily pass the Bechdel test. Chris Anka, I want to start with you, the one man that did not watch this movie with us. What did you think of Halloween Kills?
So as you know, Tim, I was doing a Saw rewatch a few months ago.
Naturally.
Okay.
So basically anything after that is good.
Okay. All right.
So this movie was exactly what I thought. I was reading reviews and I saw 7s out of 10s. I'm like, it's basically what that is. It's got the middle child syndrome of it's like there's no real tension because there has to be another one after this. And we're just kind of I like some of the choices they made, but like all of those choices I predicted going into this movie. So it didn't really surprise me, and my worry about bringing back actors who haven't acted in 40 years was justified.
Interesting.
So like it was exactly what I thought it was. I thought the music was incredible again. And can we talk about the greatest glow up in this movie, Michael Myers' house? Like what they did, that house was incredible. I just wanted to look at the wall.
Color on the wall.
The cloud wallpaper on the stairs leading into the dark green walls, and the couture, mid-century modern wood furniture. Oh, it was incredible. I loved it. I just wanted to stay in there.
Yeah.
Now, is it worth it? Is it worth it to stay in there for the low price you got it at, knowing that once a year you might die? You might die a brutal death.
I mean, it's been good for most of the time.
Also, just leave for one day. It's like San Diego, what San Diego does during Comic-Con. They all leave for that 1 week, and they're fine.
Really
just leave for one night, and you're good.
But I do think that I do think in some ways this does tie into maybe what is making us kind of, I feel like we're all going to come into some similar positioning of fun, but there were things that felt like gears grinding during the course of this movie. Yeah. And I think some of it is either the town's bought in or it's not bought in, because there's a lot of things, a lot of different things. Can I just jump in? Can I hop in with mine?
James Willems, give me your thoughts.
Okay. I want to say one thing. I'm so glad that we've done this in review, because honestly, it was our first episode that we did with Chris where he talked about the original movie and what it actually means, which has never occurred to me before, about a stranger entering suburban society and throwing it up. Made me appreciate this more. And this movie more, because you see that intent, right? You see what they're going for, and it's so clear. I think sometimes it's maybe a little too clear, but if I didn't have that knowledge that Chris provided for this viewing, I probably would have been like, what the fuck was like, what was this? But with it, I actually was more forgiving of some of those sequences. I think that they were clunky, and I'm still a little unclear on some of the true themes that they wanted to convey. But I would also add, to end on a positive note, I think that this has some of my favorite of all Halloween stuff in it. I think there are some scenes in it that are my favorite things from all of the movies that we've gotten to see so far. So,
Joey Noel, with that little kick us off.
Yeah. I also would like to give credit to Chris Anka, because at the beginning of Halloween in Review, he was selling us on the theatrics of Michael Myers.
Oh, dude, he was living it up. Like, you even see him do it. Like, let me set this old man. Let's see him move here. Oh, I got this knife.
That's my highlight.
And that is so apparent in this movie. I'm like, man, Chris, he knows his stuff. I am somewhere between. I was entertained during this movie. I laughed a lot in this movie, not at necessarily things I should have been laughing at. And I was always interested in where it was going. I don't think it's nearly as good as 2018 as like a standalone film. And I have a feeling I'm not the only one that thinks that. There is just like a lot of disconnect between the lore of Michael Myers and then in the entire movie of, like, at the beginning, it's Anthony Michael Hall. That was a choice.
We're going to pump the brakes right then. You're talking Anthony Michael Hall. Of course, everyone knows from his stint on Psych that he did for a hot season.
That's what we know him for.
So,
100%.
Why don't you pay respect
my
where respect is
touchstone
due.
for Anthony Michael Hall. Like, this entire bar not really remembering Michael Myers, and then all of a sudden they're all in on rallying against Michael Myers. It's like, there's a lot of movement from one side to the other. But this movie is also incredibly brutal in a way that I didn't remember from any of the other ones. I was like, oh, this is like an elevation of the gore of horror for sure. It's a weird movie, I think, is where I fall at the end of the day.
Nick Scarpino.
I mean, to echo some of the points, I had a fun time watching this movie. Obviously, watching it with all you was just a fun experience. It's Halloween. It's fun to do that. I like what they were going for, and I see what they were going for, and I really appreciate what they were going for. Building off of that theme of, I like the fact that they brought all the past survivors back, and they were trying to explain to this town like how horrible this thing is that could potentially be plaguing them. And then, of course, having that spiral out of control to being sort of the mob commentary on the mob mentality and how we let our fears and the stories we tell each other and hype each other up and all these things get the better of us. Obviously, a theme that's super relevant today. I like that idea. I just don't think they executed it very well. It meandered sort of in the middle. I think a perfect example of it is Tommy's speech, where he gets up and he starts saying the speech, but it's shot in a way and cut in a way where it's almost like they want to get through it. It's not like something that they didn't give him any time to actually like sit in the scene and act it out. And Anthony Michael Hall is not a bad actor, contrary to what Joey has been talking trash about him for the last 6 years. He's actually pretty good. And I think he could have sold that scene, but I just feel like they didn't really know where they wanted to land dramatically. I think they were like, let's just get back to the kills. That's what people want to see. And it's almost like two directors were pulling this in two different directions. Like one's like, let's make this meta commentary about what happens when a mob when the mob kind of kicks up and they just want a victim and they want to get out there and they want to kill someone, versus the other director was like, no, this is a horror movie. We should have people stabbed in the armpit repeatedly. So I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was as tight and as concise as the 2018, which I think was almost a kind of a near perfect sort of slasher style film. But it could have been better than that. It could have been something other from what they were going for. It just didn't hit that way for me.
Elise Willems.
I also pledge allegiance to the Church of Chris Anka because I feel like Chris, and I don't want to put too much pressure on Chris here, but like James said, he opened my eyes with the original Halloween with some of those themes, and I'm hoping that there's going to be something Chris says during this where I go, okay, yeah. And I already think like I'm kind of turning a page too on the mob mentality stuff as well, because I know we walked out of that theater and we went, like Joey was saying, like we went from, oh, this group of people in this bar had no idea who Michael Myers was, to the whole, like, the raising pitchforks, and they're like, yeah, we got to get him. That is a commentary on that mindset and how that escalation can happen. I will say this movie is flawed, but I had a lot of fun watching it. So I was thoroughly entertained the whole time, never bored. Some super standout moments. Joey pointed out it's brutal. Some, not just gore-rific kills, not just intense kills, but inventive kills, which for me is the what you want to do. And I know we always associate Michael Myers with the knife, but good God, this man loves to smash a head into a wall. I think he's more a head wall smasher than he is a knife guy, really at heart. And so God, those kills, it's like you couldn't look at him, you couldn't look away. It was beautiful. He's probably, I know this is a feature spoiler, meta feature spoiler, but he's probably going to get my Ragu Bagu as number one.
Wow.
For those kills alone. And I hope you all, I implore you all to think of that as we're discussing this movie and these great graphic kills. Sideline Jamie Lee Curtis. I think that was a nature of second movie syndrome, because she's going to come back in that third one and she's just going to light it all up. It's, that's unfortunate that we didn't get JLC to the extent that I wish we had. And even Judy Greer, I think could have loved some more Judy Greer.
I don't think the movie paid off where she ended in the last film, because it seemed like we were all in agreement that our favorite sequence was her like, oh, I can't do it. Gotcha. But then it felt like, again, in the nature of resetting for a sequel, they like had to kick her back down. But I was like, no, she's already achieved Super Saiyan. Yep. She's not going to KO Ken times 3. Okay.
But she also said gotcha again, and it was like, are you trying to make that a catchphrase? Like, how many catchphrases are you trying to get out of it?
Real bad.
Yeah, I love sequels that take place immediately on the heels of the predecessor.
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Weekend at Bernie's 2 is a great example.
Perfect example.
No, I love movies where it's like we're not stopping, we're just going to keep going. I think that's really fun to do, so I appreciate that. I loved that this movie kind of explored some things, like, because with horror movies, you don't usually get that immediate fallout of the film, right?
Well, that was why the theme of like the mob mentality for me worked, because it's not just that it's fun, it's that you're caught in the moment with these characters who they start and they're like, hey, this is a bad thing, and we're gonna, like, Tommy gives the speech and we've got Kyle there and all this, but meanwhile people are dropping like flies outside because this that's happening, like that has already happened. The hospitals are starting to be so the idea of fear and that cycle like exponentially growing throughout the night worked for me. It didn't pay off.
I love that it was like, we're gonna see the immediate reaction and how this town like rallies. Like you said, it didn't pay off. James pointed out you pointed out that the 70s stuff was really cool.
Oh, I loved all that stuff. And so often when movies try and do this, it doesn't happen all the time, but like anytime a movie is like, we're gonna go film more stuff that looks like it's supposed to piggyback off something that's actually from whenever, it doesn't work. But they shot it with like these bloom lenses The cinematography was just so, and even the casting, I was like they cast little Lonnie, and I was like, he looks such like a 70s kid, and then he was being bullied by like those two little girls, and one of them looked like an old woman, and I was like, that's such a 70s thing.
80s, 70s things to do.
That's like how it was, like the young Hawkins, all those things. I was just impressed because I've never seen a movie so do such a good job filming things to match a different like filmmaking time before. And I also thought it was really compelling. Like there were a lot of things that this movie did that filled in some of those voids that I had watching the 2018 version, right? Like because they're like, oh yeah, Hawkins got him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I kind of feel like I want to know what that is. Like, this is not a Cruella de Vil scenario where I don't care how she became Cruella de Vil. I actually I'm curious what that looks like. And I think the answer they gave me was pretty compelling. Like, you know, I thought it was pretty interesting and pretty compelling. I still hold to the fact that it wasn't until this night that he has lived up to the reputation that everyone has given him. Because honestly, he killed a couple people. He chased another, got shot, and then got caught by the cops. Like, and they just like Billy club his knee and he's down. Like, he just
in this one
two shots and he's like, please no more.
In this one, we see him square off against the entire Haddonfield Fire Department, all of whom have very interesting instruments of death. One guy has the fucking like circular saw thing, and he just and he draws it. You're like, oh my god, this guy's in freaking.
The person who fires a hose at him.
In the IMDb trivia, the firefighters were from Cannon Air Force Base Fire Department.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, there you go.
Scene. Yeah, but I'm totally with James on this one. I'm like, if Halloween Kills starts with they're like, oh my god, this guy is terrifying. Like, this makes a lot more sense than a dude that put a Halloween mask on and killed 3 people. Not that killing 3 people isn't horrific. But like that would be something that after a few years people would just either joke about or forget about. It wouldn't be haunting.
It's not worthy of this big lore.
Yeah.
That's why this movie works so well for me. I applaud this movie for, I think, accomplishing what it was trying to do, which I understand is not what everyone's necessarily looking for from a Halloween movie. But to me, these movies are no longer just a horror movie. And the moment it starts becoming sequel, and at this point sequelized into becoming this reboot sequel franchise, it functions more as like a Godzilla vs. Kong thing than it does as a horror movie that is supposed to scare us. Because we're rooting, like we talked about last week, we're rooting for Michael Myers to kill people, but we're also rooting for Laurie and the team to not die. So it's like we're kind of wishing for both of them to have a cool fight that we get to be a part of and watch. And what I think that this movie does a really good job of that something like Godzilla and Kong didn't is that franchise was over the course of a decade, and they did not commit to the lore that they were building. They did not commit to the characters and callbacks and a set group that they were going to move forward with. Whereas this movie, I think, does a really good job of building on the lore and legacy of not only 1978, but especially 2018. I thought it was actually really inspired to have the boyfriend character that was kind of a dick and that got drunk and all that stuff in Cameron. In 2018 to be in this in the costume still. To all of us, it's like, oh shit, we just watched that movie. We understand that like this is still the same night. And all the characters, especially the sheriff that they have that was like bleeding out that gets saved there. It's like, that's a 2018 character that they retconned to be involved in the 1978 stuff. And now in this movie, we're getting even more of that. And it all ties into this kind of theme of like last week we were talking a lot about the generational trauma that these women have went through, but it's not just these women, it's the town. And to Chris's point about like, it is just this like outsider coming in and terrifying the town. But even what does that mean? He only killed 3 people. I like that over the 40 plus years, this lore for this town has evolved and changed. Some people believe it. Some people don't believe it. Some people believe it, but like, it's not that big of a deal. Right. And then there's people like Tommy and them that are like, guys, we're not going to let you forget. And I'm going to give awkward speeches. And like, we're going to stand here. But all of a sudden, those same people, especially with some alcohol in them, are going to be like, oh, that motherfucker's out here. Let's fuck him up. I'm with you. We're going to fight for this town. And I just love the idea that it's the Star Wars Tatooine thing of it always goes back to Tatooine. But the difference is it makes sense here because it is this small town. And all the characters that were 5 years old in the first movie, they're here now because they never fucking left. And like every single thing has to do with these people's relationships with each other and the relationship to the town. And I like the idea that Laurie and the decisions Laurie made have kind of poisoned the veins of this town. And in different ways, it's kind of infected the characters around them and how they kind of deal with all of this stuff. And I love that this idea of evil, and we're jumping ahead in my own kind of thought here. I like that we're left with some questions that I think will be answered in Halloween Ends, and I don't know that they're going to be answered in a great way, but how evil is he? How supernatural is he? Why is he supernatural? And then the other side, is he hunting Laurie? Because the way this movie ends, I like that there's characters that are kind of saying contradicting things because they don't know. It could be this, it could be that. And I like that that's kind of where we're at, because to me, this functions as the Godzilla vs. Kong thing, because we know the next movie's next year. We know we're getting a sequel. This is episodic filmmaking. So sure, does this kind of function more like an Age of Ultron than a Infinity War or Endgame? Yeah. And like, that isn't always the most exciting thing. I do think this is easily not as good as 2018, like many steps down. Chris saying 7 out of 10. I feel like that is probably as high as I would go with this, but I think they did a really good job of showing love to the legacy and lore that they've built themselves in the 2018 film to create a world that I'm interested in, and building upon this idea of the evil corrupting everything around him, starting with the scene in the courtyard, which was at this point just days, like a day and a half before what we saw here, of all the people kind of hearing the noises and the evil kind of like taking over and building, seeing that guy with the umbrella that ends up being the guy that's killed in this movie from the bus crash, like that type of tie-in and stuff. It's like it all goes back to this evil that's pervading this town. And I like that from the beginning of this movie, we see that evil corrupt the town to the point that leaves them defenseless. Their entire fire team's taken down. Then cops are taken out. The cops are in shambles, running around trying to deal with all this stuff. Just like Loomis said in the first movie, where he's like, we can't go to the cops because it's going to cause all this problem.
They're going to see him everywhere.
That's exactly what fucking happens. And then it happens with the town people, the mob mentality stuff itself, which I can totally see an argument for. It felt weird and felt off, but I can also see an argument for these are a group of people that have never left their town and are going to act this way. And I think the last key bit before I get to you, Elise, is the fact that the hospital is now overrun. The fact that they're all going to this hospital, people need help and they can't get help that they need. Like this evil, this one guy, the one guy that just killed 4 people 40 years ago in this one night has taken down this town. I think it's fucking cool as hell. Elise, go for it.
I think maybe I'm being too optimistic, but there's a chance that we may all end up talk ourselves into liking this movie more than we thought we did by the end of this review.
I feel like it has a lot of good merits, right? And it's not to say that it doesn't. The part that I liked the most, you guys just brought up, which was the one where they said, is he hunting Laurie? Because the whole theme of the movie is about fear. And one of the parts I liked least is at the end of it, where for whatever reason, they have Jamie Lee Curtis give you a diatribe about what fear means, and that Michael Myers really is fear. He's just fear itself, like nothing to scare but fear. But Hawkins says I think it was Hawkins who was like, she's not hunting you, and Laurie's like taken aback by that, and she's like, "What are you talking about? He came to my house." He goes, "No, the doctor brought him to your house." For all Michael knew, he was just along for the ride. And Laurie has that moment of realizing that fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy. She was terrified of Michael and somehow manifested him showing up on her doorstep because of that. If she had not done anything, if she had stayed out of it, it's possible she could have just lived the rest of her life and never seen him again, because we don't know what his motivations are. In fact, actually, we do know. He just wants to go home. He just wants to go to his bedroom and stare at himself in the reflection of a mirror or in a window. And Lord knows I've been there.
Well, I think because we touched on that on our 2018, I think that was one of the fun parts of our discussion was like, he's just get along for the ride, poor guy. Like, you know, like, and so I'm glad that they addressed it. I think in terms of talking ourselves into liking it more, I don't think I necessarily disliked it, but I have to acknowledge how clunky it
clunky's a great word.
Handled all of those things, right? Like, because every single, Tim, exactly what you're saying, every single thing that they pulled isn't manifested out of nowhere. They found it deep within the lore of this movie from decades and decades ago. And any stuff that wasn't pulled from there, they conjured naturally, you know, through the genesis of the 2018 film, right? Like, and so when you're watching it, you're not like, I have written this off completely. It's not like this is coming out of complete left field. I think it's just more like sometimes it's like, I wish maybe there's a better way they could have explained this to me because I appreciate it.
Nick
you know,
boiled down to execution, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's a perfect example, right? Why didn't this start in the 70s? It doesn't start in the 70s, right? It starts in modern time and then goes to the 70s and then goes back. The jumps back and forth, the editing of
Doesn't
this.
it start in the 70s or no?
No, I think
it starts in the back of the
it
truck.
starts with Cameron walking and finding Hawkins dead,
Yeah.
and then Hawkins like, no, I have to be the one to kill him because and then we go over to the 70s. I'm like, that would have been a better way of starting. That's who gives a shit about Cameron. And he's like, we didn't like that character from the last one. And spoilers, gets his head turned around 380 degrees in the wrong direction. So a lot of this, I honestly think, comes down to editing and a little bit of unfortunate. I think the screenplay needed to be slightly more reworked. When I mentioned earlier, I was being facetious about a high school play, but it does remind me of like when you watch someone's first or second like try at something and they tend to over explain what's going on, and it's like kind of the definition of like telling, not showing. A lot of this was characters talking to the audience via a microphone or orating to a group of people, telling them what we should be feeling, and that's okay, but it was a lot of it. So I think we could have trimmed a lot of that out and kind of streamlined this a little bit.
I also think once they got into the Haddonfield is now rioting and the hospital's overrun, and then there's kill squads going out onto the streets and stuff like that. I think maybe if they found a way to do that without making it seem like every single one of them was purely incompetent in the most complete way. Like just it's just the idea of like grabbing the baseball bat, like handing out these massive guns. No one knows how to use any of them. Like, I get the point of it, but it really made me start rooting for Michael for maybe the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I was like, this town sucks, and the people in it are dimwits.
But,
you know,
but that's such a razor's edge. That's such a razor thin thing to play with. And I was like, once it became clear to me that like I was like, oh, Tommy's gonna lead this mob around, and it immediately occurred to me, I'm like, they're gonna kill the wrong person, and they're gonna become the monster, and that's exactly what happened. What a cool, great little twist. It just wasn't executed as cleanly as I wanted. We kept going back to Laurie, we kept going back to Hawking, we kept having them have these emotional moments where I'm like, it's a lot of going back to that, a lot of going back to Judy Greer, who should have been the one that stepped up and said, no, we have to fucking kill him tonight, not let's walk away from it. Chris Anka.
Well, great lead in there, because I wanted to jump right off of that I hate Tommy in this for what he does, but I love his character in terms of he's the mirror of Karen. And you have Judy Greer's character, who was forged in the fire of being afraid of the boogeyman, and how much she has tried to run from this her whole life and tried to be, people can be better. I am not my trauma. And then you have Tommy, who is holding on to the fact that he was inadequate as a child in protecting Laurie. So he does everything he can to be a toxic male and jump into this behavior and hunt anything he can because he wants to make up for the damage he does. And so I think the movie doesn't do a good job of, I mean, they almost do the fact that when they're looking at the mental patient, and it's the two of them kind of looking at each other of, no, Tommy, you fucked up.
Yeah.
And I wish that we went a little bit more into the fact that like Tommy's right after, he's like, I did fuck up, but I'm gonna try again. And it's like, no, Tommy, you need to sit the fuck down.
You missed
like,
the point. And that was
Karen to do this.
That's the thing too. It was missing that beat, right?
Yeah.
That beat of, oh, because you fucked up, you killed someone, and then everyone disperses, and the only people left are Michael and his victims. And that's the scary thing, right? Where you have this mob behind you, and you're like, there's strength in number and power in numbers, and then they go rogue and they do the wrong thing, and then who's gonna cover your back? No one, because they all disperse. We didn't get that moment.
You know what all of this discussion reminds me of? I was in a philosophy class in college, and all the Matrix movies had come out, and like the third one had come out, and we had a discussion about it, and the professor made the Matrix narrative, like, of the sequels seem way more compelling than the movies did, like, because it's there. There's things there. There's themes, and there's philosophical questions, and there's execution there. But there's something about how it was conveyed in the films that is clunkier than when we here are just discussing it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like,
but to the credit of the film, it's there. It's there, right? It's on the canvas. But I think you have to do maybe a little bit more work, or you have to overlook some other things to really like pull it out. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect way of putting it, right? It's just, I think it could. I definitely am disappointed that it wasn't better. which I think is a compliment. Does that make
sense?
sense?
So too. Oh, absolutely.
I think it's one of those where I'm like, I enjoy this movie. It's the old, I think Tarantino said it once about It Follows, where he was like, I liked this movie so much, I'm really disappointed it wasn't great. And that kind of, I'm not quite there with this one, where I was like, it was a little too clunky for me to really love this movie, but I enjoyed the hell out of it, and it could have been better if they had made a few minor tweaks. And it sucks too, coming hot off the heels of 2018, which I think we all were just like, dude, this is just a roller coaster and a riot. This one could have been the sort of opposite side of the coin of that, a cerebral, kind of messed up character study about the fallout of all of this stuff. And Michael could have been secondary to it, but they just didn't know how to pull it together. Tim Getty's kind of funny.
I'm hoping that that's the next one. Like, I'm hoping that this is.
We might need this as the bridge,
situation.
For sure.
And that's my thing is we've never had this situation where there's a plan, there's a design, there's a story being told with slasher character like this. It's like any franchise, it just eventually just keeps going and going and going until it's good until it's not, and then it just becomes nonsense. And then it reaches a point where the sequels are literally just going back to the old lore just to put them in the trailer so we go see the new movies. And they're like, oh, they're back. That's kind of cool for a fun cameo. I like that this movie doesn't treat them like cameos. This franchise is treating every single character as an important part of the story they're telling. Yeah. And I'm hoping that it all ends and Halloween ends with a actual real life usage of all these characters' traumas coming together and having the final stand of what does it mean. Let's take a deeper look. Going back to what Elisa's saying, I'm so interested that this movie takes place the exact same night. What's the next movie going to be? Are they going to continue right after this? Is there a time jump?
Well, that brings up a major problem I think they're going to have, which is that there's no real tension now, because Michael Myers is completely unbeatable in my eyes, in my opinion.
So tanks.
Well, I think that's the strongest part of this movie is that they actually succeed in making you believe that Michael Myers is the boogeyman. Whereas like in the past movies, it's like, oh, he's the guy that killed a couple people. And you kind of start to see that supernatural aspect of Michael Myers ramp up. And I think that's going to end up paying off in the third movie.
How though? Because I think some of the magic of the original movie was we're like, is he supernatural? Or is he a guy? Did I just imagine these things? To Tim's earlier point, is the supernaturalness of Michael Myers folklore, or is it true? Did we make this up over the last 30 years of retelling the story? Suddenly the guy that killed one person over 20 years massacred an entire school bus of children, right? And that never happened, but when you tell the story over and over again on the telephone, it just becomes this amplified thing for fear. But now it's like, no, I stabbed that dude in the spine with a pitchfork. We shot him 8 times, and he just got up and walked away.
But my thing is, I think that this movie is starting to plant seeds that are like in a garden that seeds have been planted in 2018. So there's already some things going there where he was just a dude in the original movie, and Loomis was like kind of questioning. He's like, there's darkness in his eyes. There's evil in him, and like we need to figure this out. And then they just tell us that over the many years that he saw Michael as a little kid, he saw him transition from human to something different. And with that, I think that's a metaphor. I think that is like not legitimately he's supernatural, but what we see in the beginning of 2018 in the courtyard when everyone starts freaking out, I think the perfect level of the town being corrupted by the evil that is in Michael has been unleashed and is starting to trickle through the town, that by the end of this movie, and he's going out, they even say it's like the kills are powering him. And I think that we're seeing a super powered, it's like Godzilla, going back to Godzilla and Kong, it's like him fucking taking in the energy to then blow it out again. It's like, I think that we are now dealing with what was once a potential supernatural Michael. It is now, and he's powerful, and he's ready to keep fucking killing.
It's like he gets his power from this house. And I just want to jump back to what you said before, Tim, about when is it going to start. I hope it takes place immediately after. Like, I hope it's still that night.
I don't think it can though, because Jamie Lee Curtis got a gigantic. I mean, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with Jamie Lee Curtis having like
took that butt
full
shot.
abdominal surgery. It would have been one thing if they were like, she took a little gut shot, we sewed it up, and you do the action hero thing where it's like, oh, occasionally you make mention of like, oh, I pulled a staple or whatever. But she like, tore open her entire torso. That's going to take years to heal.
How fun it would be if like 6 p.m. Halloween night, you put on Halloween 2018. That finishes, you put on Halloween Kills. That finishes by midnight, you're done, Halloween ends.
In real time.
In real time. What a night, guys.
I'm right there with you.
Chris Anka.
I just wanted to go. I think they already gave us what the third movie is going to be, and it has to be Laurie. And even because she has that line where she's like, "Michael can only die when I'm ready to die." And I think that's the change. Is you have the first movie and this movie is a Laurie trying to survive, and now that Karen is dead, Laurie's like, I have to take him down with me, and that's how. And so the whole next movie is just the two of them going at each other, and you've never had a Laurie ready. Exactly, yeah.
But remember, though, right after that, somebody explains to her, "Hey, it ain't all about you. It actually has nothing to do with you." And so that's what I'm fascinated about. We don't know. Hawkins could be. Remember, Hawkins at the very beginning of this says, "I have to be the one to kill him." And then we go back and see why. And then midway through the story, Laurie goes, I have to be the one to kill him. Everyone thinks they have to be the one.
He had to be the one.
He had to be the one to kill him, right?
Well, now the daughter is going to want to get revenge for her parents.
She wants revenge now, too. So
yeah, but Allison has a broken leg. So Allison's kind of
real broken.
Yeah, but again, you take a little bit of, Chris, you're missing. You take a little morphine, shoot your ass up with it. You are ready to go for 130 minutes. Sure.
She just needs to reset her leg. She just like pops it in and walks up. I mean, I'm even down with like because even the fact that they build Hawkins up of it's Laurie and Hawkins versus Michael.
Love it.
And you just and it's the three of them of like but I even like the symbolism of it's the three from the past.
Yeah.
It's the victim, the one who hunted him, and the attacker, and it's they're the only three. The only way you can make it better if Loomis was still around.
Right.
But I think I like the fact that it's just the three of them make it pure, and that's the whole third movie. Because now that you've gotten rid of Karen, you have the fire in Laurie you get.
But you also have the fire in Allison. Though.
We bring back Julian into the mix. Hawkins, Laurie, Julian.
We need Julian. We need more Julian. Yeah.
But the whole movie, I'm thinking like it's only 9:45. Like they still got 2 more hours of Halloween. Like we got this.
I feel
before we get to the plot, before we get to Joey, real quick, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Overland. Cozy season is upon us, and if anybody out there knows me, they know that I love being cozy. I love being comfortable, and now I've learned there's nothing better for my feet to achieve that than these Overland sheepskin slippers. I've been loving it. They are so soft. They're so high quality. And the biggest thing that impresses me is her whole life, Gia's been like, I'm not a slipper person. Guess what? I'm catching her in these slips every day now. She looks so damn comfy. You gotta love it. Overland uses expert craftsmanship to pair the highest quality merino sheepskin, which is naturally moisture wicking, temperature regulating, and antimicrobial, with supportive memory foam midsoles to make slippers that feel and wear better for longer. Don't wait another day to slip into something way more comfortable. Get the best high quality sheepskin slippers on the market at overland.com/kindafunny. You'll get free shipping and free returns, and I recommend you go today because these slippers are so beloved that they've been known to sell out. That's overland.com/kindafunny. 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 Next up, shout out to Babbel. A lot of us are thinking about travel again, but not knowing the language of our destination can make even the simplest things harder. But you can change that with Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app. Their short lessons on practical topics from menus to directions to local culture make it a travel essential. Greg Miller's been using Babbel to learn a little bit more French so he can impress Jen, and it's been going very, very well. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it easy for learning on a busy schedule. Other language learning programs rely on AI, but Babbel works with language experts to create their lessons. And Babbel's teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, and German, even Turkish and Indonesian. Plus, their speech recognition technology can help you improve your pronunciation and accent, because even if you are a tourist, you don't need to sound like one. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to babbel.com and use the promo code MORNING. That's BABBEL.com, code MORNING. Babbel, language for life. And finally, shout out to Raycon. There's so much going on right now, whether it's stuff you're excited about like traveling or stuff you'd rather avoid like traffic. You can't always control the vibes out there, but you can control the vibes in your own head when you've got a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. Cool Greg's been training for a half marathon, and as he's been getting his run on, as he's been working out, he's been listening to his jams using his everyday Raycons. He's been loving them. Raycon's new everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. They've got an improved rubber oil look and feel and optimized gel tips for a perfect in-ear fit. Plus, you get 3 new sound profiles, so the sound is great no matter what you're listening to, whether it's a podcast like this, rock music, EDM, hip-hop, It's all cool. Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but they sound every bit as good. Right now, Kinda Funny listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/kindafunny. That's buyraycon.com/kindafunny to save 15% on Raycons. Buyraycon.com/kindafunny. Joey, what's up?
I'm looking for it because I feel like I read something in the last day or two that said where we were jumping back into the timeline for Halloween Ends, but now I can't find it, so I don't want to say it in case I just totally made it up in my brain.
Interesting. One thing there's two things I know about that type of thing is that originally the movies were supposed to be shot back to back, and because of the pandemic, that did not happen. So they are still planning to shoot the movie next spring. So it has not been shot yet. Okay. Yeah. And then the other interesting thing is there is an alternate ending, and that is an extended ending of what we have here. That is technically contradicts what happens, but like it's the same set pieces and stuff that the director was saying is going to be on the physical release of the movie. The difference being it ends with Laurie calling her daughter, and her daughter's dead. Michael just killed her, and she just hears Michael breathing. And it essentially ends on a motherfucker, I'm coming for you type thing, which like I don't think we needed because like, yeah, we know. Like that's what's gonna happen anyways.
Yeah, and you save that moment for the actual movie where it's gonna pay off, right? Like
totally.
Well, that'd be great. That's the teaser trailer. Like how the teaser trailer for this movie was them in the back of the truck yelling, "Let it burn." The teaser for that is her calling her daughter, and then you just hear the breathing.
Yeah.
I want to give. It started off as a joke. I was talking to one of my friends about it. It's like I love that Karen's wearing a Christmas sweater the whole movie. I was like, oh my fuck yeah, Karen. But I'm also like, no, it's because Karen has rejected the entire idea of Halloween because of what her mom did to her. So she's like, I just ignore this entire holiday entirely.
Straight to Christmas.
I love that too. I thought about that too. I was like, oh yeah, she's like, I don't fuck with Halloween.
We're in Christmas mode.
I think that it's that craftsmanship, like right? But I'm just saying, like that craftsmanship. Someone puts that thought, and you can't help but watch this movie, and especially 2018, and see that throughout. And I think that makes it. That's why you can't just write off a movie. There's certain movies that are not. They don't live up to their potential or whatever, and you can write them off or whatever. But I think this movie you can't. You have to admire the team that put in the effort to do these things, whether or not it was fully executed in the way that you hoped it was, or maybe the way that it even could have been. So
with that, let's get to the plot.
Please tell us the story. Hey, Joey, please tell us the story.
I did find the article, and they do. It was a Collider article from today. Do people want to know what it says or no? In terms of timeline.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we're going to get spoiled eventually.
Yeah, I do. They're saying that it jumps to modern times, so there's a 4-year gap between.
They have to.
This and Ends. So that's.
I had heard something else about Ends and issues that it was potentially going to be tackling as well.
So that's all I know. I haven't read any further in the article, but that's how they're gonna figure out how to get Laurie in after surgery, I guess.
That makes more sense.
The only thing that contradicted that, like, I mean, if they say that's what it is, that's what it is. The only thing that contradicted that in my head was the fact that Michael was still in the house. If you just had a shot of Michael leaving the house of like, I'm done, it's 12:01, then I'd make, okay, cool, now we do time jump. But the fact that he's like, the last shot is still him in the window, it's like, are everyone just gonna ignore that he's up there? Because that makes sense at this point.
The answer would be yes. If this were me, I'd be like, James, we're going to go for some more blue curacao drinks, and we're going to leave this fucking guy alone because he's unstoppable.
Little James and Big Nick. That's what I
love that. I love that. I imagine it'll be kind of what you said, but it's going to be an endgame situation where the beginning of the movie is her calling her daughter, hearing the breathing, and then they deal with that, and then 4 years later or whatever, and that's the rest of the movie. Interesting.
Well, let's kick off this plot, Tim. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic.
I love the idea that just no one's in this town anymore.
like this.
Like 30 of us got brutal in one night. We're done. We're out.
But I think, I mean, honestly, to go on that note, though, I did want to make one point. Like, I think that the one thing that was a big disappointment for me in this movie was it was the lack of Jamie Lee Curtis's presence in it. I think she was so fascinating in the 2018 as a juxtaposition to who her character was in the 70s that I was like, I miss it. And you could tell by the way the filmmakers were like, we got to get her in a few more scenes in this, because they kind of shoehorned in a few of those scenes between her and Hawkins, some of which are good and some of which were just like a little bit weird. Like,
I think
remember
Judy
that time
Greer
we
did
made
a
out?
good job. Yeah, I think
It was
Judy Greer
like
did a
Hawkins
good
was
job
16.
carrying the movie, but like, I like that decision just because that helps us like look forward to Laurie coming back. Now that we got rid of all of the B plots, all of the B plots all died in this movie.
Agree,
You don't have to worry. I'm
but
with
it's one
you.
of those where, like, when you have Laurie move over, you know, like you have the mentor character move over, it means Harry Potter gets to step up and like take on Voldemort, right? And like Judy Greer's character, I feel like just didn't give her something cool to do. She should have been the one that eventually grabbed old Huckleberry, was like, I'm gonna take this guy down myself, and then fail.
Old Huckleberry.
The bartender's like, yeah, I had this bat just in case. I don't know, and then Anthony Michael Hall's like, Anthony Michael Hall's like, I better take your bat, and he's like, that's my fucking bat. Where are you going?
Give me my bat back, bro. This is how I break up barroom brawls between the three mermaids over there.
Huckleberry.
Anyway, we start off right where we left off from 2018. Old Cameron still in the Bonnie costume from the Halloween party at the school is stumbling down the street and stumbles upon Hawkins, who has been stabbed in the neck. And I love this scene because I'm like, is Hawkins not dead? Are we gonna get more Will Patton in this movie? You bet your britches, son.
Is Karen not dead?
I mean,
that's what I was thinking. That's what I thought, because
she just gets wheeled in. They just shoehorn her in between Laurie and Hawkins. Like, we're all here now. We're hanging out until next Halloween. Cheers. Of course, he gets saved there. Again, one thing is, James, if I'm ever gushing blood from my neck, please put pressure on that, and then don't just scream out into the ethos. Use that cell phone to call 911, please.
I like that he said, "You hold it here." Like Cameron, had a rag, and he was like, "Hold this," and it's like,
no,
I'm bleeding out of my neck. You hold it.
I can't control my right arm. There's no blood left in it. I need that for that. I will also say, Joey, this is the point where I lost the Junior Mint and was worried that it was stuck to my jeans.
Right, that was pretty early on. Yeah, that was very early.
That was scary.
Did you refine the Junior Mint, or did it
I sure did. It was actually stuck to the top of my jacket because I was using my jacket as a little blankie. So it went to so I had to. That's why I kind of wiped it off and used this to kind of dry it off over there. Air dry, Joe. Air dry. I think it's fine when I wear it later. If you guys hang out, if you spot any gooey parts on me, please let me know. I would like to know that. I don't like walking around with goo all over me. Anyway, let's see. Hawkins, then that's when we go back. He's like, it's got to be me. I got to be the one who kills him. And Cameron's like, I don't understand what the F is going on right now. And he goes, well, why don't you come on back to a little flashback with me to 1978? And James hit the nail on the head on this one. I love the way all this stuff is filmed. The Loomis stuff, I was like, was that him? Like, did they get that guy?
What the hell?
Right?
We did it. We finally figured out how to resurrect dead actors.
Holy shit. Do we know how they did that? Was it just facial?
I think a big trick is you keep him in half shadow the whole time.
But was it a different actor?
Worked.
It looked like a different actor for
There's a different actor for one shot, staring right into the camera close up, and I'm like, that is a really well. Now, granted, I don't exactly know what Donald Pleasance looks like off the top of my dome, but I'm like, that's him. They nailed that guy. I don't know. Anyway, that was cool. We get the scene where they're hunting him down, and at first I was like, this scene's going on for a long time, but I'm like, I don't mad at it. Yeah. We get the young Hawkins walking around, the other guy like hanging out with him, and they have that fun. We get a moment to just be in that world back in 78 as they're hunting Michael. And to Tim's earlier point, it's cool. That's actually something I would have liked to have seen in the original film, at least, or had a follow-up sequel film to it that started right off there, which we're getting now, which is cool. Of course, they chase him back into his house, and his partner gets just decimated. Michael moving like a land shark in this, man, just coming out of nowhere. And I'll say this to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're visiting Haddonfield on October 31st, stay away from closet doors. Just stay away from them, especially the ones that have the Venetian like blinds built into them. They're deadly. Anyway, Hawkins, who apparently has never fired his service revolver at all, just decides to shoot, unfortunately, the guy through the neck. He goes down, and then Michael goes outside. And I don't think we get the full resolution here. I think we cut back to this flashback a bit later when Loomis comes in. He's like, did you kill the evil? Did you kill it? Kill the evil. And then, of course, eventually we'll just cut ahead. He eventually stops and stops him from dying. And then they lie about the fact that the other officer shot himself in the neck accidentally.
Somewhere out there is a scene where the Haddonfield optometrist is like slowly building. He's conniving. he's giving everyone bad prescriptions for their eyes. Like everyone in this town, I think there'd be some scenes where after every single person takes a shot with a gun, it should then show a close up of their eyes, and it's all crossed and they're spinning like Gremlins, like that goofy gremlin from Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
Like they all look that way because everyone either like Hawkins. Okay, at least he took the shot. It was terrible. It was a terrible shot. But then he fires like 2 or 3 more times at Michael at point blank range over the stairs and completely misses them all.
Right over his head, yeah.
It sets a trend for how everyone cannot just hit. Is this ghost powers? Maybe. Maybe evil forces the bullets to curve around his shape. But if not, it's just really, really bad prescriptions.
As a person who spent copious amounts of hours playing competitive online shooters with Chris Anka and completely crapping the bed when it comes down to the last kill, I sympathize. with this guy. Right. Jumping back to the present, Tommy Doyle. I'm sorry, Tim, I had to do it. Celebrates the 40th anniversary of Michael's arrest and imprisonment. They're at the bar here, and we're at Open Mix Bar, I think was what I always love little joke there on open mix, where we're getting a talent show, and then we get introduced to the survivors of Michael Myers, not the least of which is, of course, the one everyone was looking forward to seeing again, Tim, Nurse Chambers. She's back in the first one.
She's there.
She's like, and then he goes around and is like, I watched Michael kill 3 people, including my babysitter, and it was very traumatic. Nurse Chambers was attacked. Lonnie saw Michael Myers once.
Yeah. He's like, we all deserve to be here equally.
And everyone's like, Lonnie, no, bro. I don't know where that scene comes, but we do get a scene with Lonnie from the flashback. That might have actually been...
That's in the beginning.
In the beginning,
it leads into the hunt.
Yeah, he's being bullied, and I think Brackett comes up and tells him to get home.
One thing about this movie overall that I'm not even going to call out all things. You can look at the trivia page because there's just too many of it. But like, there's so many references to the other Halloween movies we haven't seen, whether it's the original 2 or 4 or 5. Season of the Witch even gets the outfits that the 3 kids are wearing with the different masks and stuff. So a lot of fun stuff there. And
is that something from another Halloween movie?
It's not
Tombstone.
I just wanted something. I was like, I'll be your Huckleberry. And like, it's the
that's just
movie.
my guess. Love that. By the way, I'm doing a lot of this off the top of my head with the use of the Wikipedia page as well. So if this looks familiar, if you're reading along with this, this is not. I'm not this good. It's actually been compiled.
Did you guys catch it? The doctor and the nurse were from 2018.
No.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh,
when Michael shows up on the street, you see the 2 of them jumping in the car and pulling out.
I thought that was awesome. That was yeah. Remember, she's like, I forgot. He's like, I forgot my keys or whatever, and then we get the little callback here where he's like, I forgot my stethoscope.
Great.
Oh wow.
She goes back in the car. Yeah. That was good. That's why I thought we were going to see Julian again. I was like, oh, they were the neighbors.
Well, we did see Julian.
I mean, we did see him. He's on the news.
Yeah, he's on the news.
He's on the news. Like, I'm in the next town. Fuck that place.
Yeah. So good, kid. Smart kid. Right. Let's see. We get here. We meet Lonnie, who's Cameron's dad, and we've heard about Lonnie as well because Ray used to buy. It's actually not clear who used to buy drugs off of whom in this.
Which
situation.
I kind of like. It's like,
hilarious.
you always blame it on the other person so you don't get in trouble.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And then, of course, elsewhere we catch back up to where the real end of the movie was, where Karen, Lori, and Allison are driving away in the back of the pickup truck, which I just realized right now might be a slight homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And fire trucks roll by them, and Lori screams, "No, let it burn!"
Which is a reference to Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2.
I wanted to say, I love the build up to this because you have Tommy doing his really long speech, and you have everyone kind of like, pour one out for the victims of the thing that happened 40 years ago. Smash cut. Lori's bleeding out from what's happening right now.
Right now,
I'm like, no, we're right back in. Like, we're going. Like, people are dying.
Very cool. I didn't. Again, I hate to harp on it. I hate to harp on the mechanics of some of this stuff, but I really didn't love how they filmed Tommy's speech. I thought that was like they used a lot of zooms in it, and which I was like, why are you trying to give this speech momentum? We should just be sitting here with him in the awkwardness of him talking to this room.
It was filmed like a Eurovision concert.
Really weird.
It was very strange. It was very 24.
Him to like spike the camera.
Eurovision.
It's really weird.
It was weird because they treated it. I think the reason it felt so off was they treat it as if the characters we're seeing are like these big reveals visually, and they're not. their big reveals in terms of what they're telling us. Like they do a good job of like explaining like this is this guy and this is what happened to him. This is that girl. That's what happened. She was the nurse and all that stuff. But like they kind of hide all their faces. And I only noticed this because I was waiting to see Kyle Richards and they don't show her for a long time. You hear her laugh, you see her hand and like a little bit under her cheek. I'm like, this is not the reveal you think it is. Like for sure. So it causes some awkward pacing editing wise.
I would have been okay with this speech if it ended with Lonnie coming back up. It's like, Tommy, you've been drinking. Let's get you go off the stage. Come on now. Like it seems like he rambled and didn't practice his speech and just going on for a little too long.
But it also seemed like the speech went over better than it should have, right? Like I almost think that if this in other movies where you see this character, you almost want him to be the one who's kind of like the town crazy, for lack of a better term. Like, Tommy's always going on and on about this guy. Don't listen to that guy, whatever. He's got some issues. And then midway through the story, fuck you guys, I was proven right. And then by the end, you're like, oh no, he went way too crazy with the power.
I think that also gives him the prophet kind of vibe, which makes like he was the one who heralded this. We should listen to everything he says from now on.
We doubted him at first, and we called him crazy, but then
raising the glass to Lori was a little cathartic touch because she's been so dismissed, I think, especially by her own family. So the fact that people in the room are like, oh yeah, like Laurie Strode.
Yeah, but it's a gesture that she's not present for. I think it works because it immediately hard cuts to her bleeding out in the back of a truck bed, right? No one gave a shit. You guys went out for your Halloween party, and she's actually dealing with the trauma of what happened 40 years ago while you guys drink, so...
Well, it is interesting too of like, there's nothing about this movie that makes you think that like they've had any contact over the last 40 years. So it, so it is like the performance of it, of like being publicly like this figure. Like I'm going to say this big thing, but like in reality, I don't have not reached out or like given a fuck about this, which I think kind of goes along with some of the like commentary even last time about like the podcast and how lore kind of gets commercialized.
And also going off of his bravado, right, of his need to like what Chris was talking about, like
involve himself.
Involve himself.
It's like, I abandoned this woman. I need to make this up.
I think in the bartenders does say, like when he's talking to the guy in the doctor's outfit, that Lori, like they hang out with Lori all the time at this bar, right?
Because I don't think so. I remember him being somewhat dismissive of what was going on, like, Christ, like get this over with. But it was just the scene itself. I just don't think worked very well, and it was, I don't know, Tim. How do you feel about Kyle Richards being in this movie? Obviously, I think she did a fine job.
I mean, I fucking love her. I don't think that there's anything about her that would require comment any way, positive or negative. Like she could have been anybody.
The nose ring was okay.
Her what?
The nose ring, that was okay.
I mean, that is such a Nick thing to be upset about.
Odd choice. I was like, why is she a nose ring? She doesn't have a nose ring in real life. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I mean, I enjoyed her a lot, but I also don't think that they, like, with the exception of the way they weirdly edited the reveal of these characters, like, I don't think they, like, treated her special because she's a housewife or anything. I do like that she survives. I like that there was inconsistency in the survivors of whether they lived or died. I liked that because it kind of, like, did give this movie some level of stakes where it's not just like, oh, well, they're definitely going to die. It's like there is that question of, like, I like that they set the stage for the inevitable sequel that we know is happening next year. Cool. There's still some fodder left.
How do you feel about her choice of weaponry when push to shove? Okay, good.
Oh, look, some bricks. Oh, look, a pillowcase. I wouldn't have thought of it.
She's like the MacGyver.
I will say I was a bit disappointed though that in the crew of people that were going to look for Michael, the playing field was very even. I kind of think that Tommy and Kyle Richards' character, I forget what her name was in this, because they were the original kids, I almost wanted them to be a little bit pulled out from the rest of the cast. Like, no disrespect to Nurse Chambers and the two other neighborhood people, but I'm like, they weren't there. Like, they weren't a part of the original massacre per se. But anyway, I'm to Tim's point, I'm glad she survived as well. Let's cut forward to what I think is an outstanding scene here. The firefighters going in and trying to save Michael while he's trying to kill them. And there's that one moment where he's like, give me your hand, thinking he's saving his friend. There's nothing more terrifying to me than like than like people who are doing the right thing being led to the slaughter. And and I think this scene, they did a good job of doing that, specifically with the hand thing. And just fucking there's another fucking roll door down in the basement that Michael hid behind.
Yeah, they'll be like, I'm gonna hide in the closet.
Well, but it pisses me. We talked about this in the initial review. I was like, listen, this is the worst plan to get rid of Michael Myers ever. And it's even worse now, revealing that they had a fireproof roll door down there in the basement where they intended to burn him to death.
Not a solid plan. And if you're gonna do it, just wait there. But like, don't burn. It's my house. Don't burn.
It paid it off with an incredible moment of him coming out of the house, half burnt, on fire, killing those 2 firefighters, and then just eviscerate. We were in the theater together, and all I could hear in my head was Tim going, "Let's go!"
Yeah,
it was such a satisfying. Like, you know, sometimes movies, it's I just want to see the guy from the movie do the thing I want him to do, and
exactly.
And it was him. Surrounded by fire,
and the close-up of every different tool the firefighters had before he obliterated them.
I will say, unfortunately for me, like one of my like weaker things about this movie is that this was the only real "let's go" moment. Like the only other one I had was when it gets to the end and we see Michael in the street and everybody starts coming around it, and Nick and I were kind of hitting each other like he's about to fuck up all of their worlds, and this is incredible. And then the way they kind of do it, I don't think was like my favorite. But like it sucks because comparing it to 2018, it had like 4 or 5 moments that are genuinely like perfect Michael Myers, like him opening the trunk and putting the mask on and like the music hitting. Like there's no moment in this movie where the music hits. I love the music in this movie, but there's no moment where the music made the scene for me and like made everything come together emotionally with that hype feeling of like fucking let's go.
I will say
it doesn't pay up. I love the moment of Allison grabbing the shotgun. Everyone's like, I'm gonna grab a gun, and she's just like, nah, here we go.
Nah, let's go.
I'm like, oh yeah, let's go.
That was almost comedic to me though, because Lonnie's there like passing out handguns, and you don't see the shotgun, and the camera just like kind of just pans over. She's like, I'll take this one. It's like 5 times bigger than what everyone else does.
I just wanted to grab like the minigun from Predator. Like, let's go.
Just pulls it up. If it bleeds, we can kill it. I do want to give a shout out to the costumers in this movie, because I think it's actually a pretty cool accomplishment to evolve that mask as the story goes along, and he gets way scarier and way more like ghoulish looking by the end of it. Like half of it's melted away, the hair's like slicked back, it's just caked on with soot at this point, and then I don't know how they do it. I think it's just lighting, but the eyes just being complete dark pockets works so well in the close-ups, along with the breathing, that classic Michael Myers breathing. Super cool.
Richard's nose ring.
It makes the juxtaposed to his plain white mask so creepy too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, look at how far he's come from that.
I want you to know. I don't hate the nose ring. It was just an interesting choice. I was like,
I just want you to know, I legitimately have looked at Kyle Richards' face for hundreds of hours, and I didn't notice she was wearing a nose ring last night. I wouldn't notice if she has one normally.
I had no idea.
I could be.
You're
Maybe I made this up.
Person, Nick.
Joey, did you notice she was wearing a nose ring?
No, but I'm not one to notice stuff like that.
It's just, it popped out to me because I was like, the nose ring hasn't been in vogue in a while that I know of, but I am also not a nose ring connoisseur, so maybe James knows more about nose rings.
I think you might be out of touch.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Slightly. But I also didn't notice a nose ring. But I have noticed that sometimes I do immediately go like, you've got a nose ring. That's just something I do. I don't have any piercings, and I think sometimes you just go like, you've got a nose ring.
I don't want to throw out hate for nose rings. I don't dislike nose rings. Nose rings are totally fine. It's just one of those things where like you don't think of it just popped as like a weird standout.
You know what's interesting? She broke her nose during filming of this movie. So I wonder if that had something to do with it. Maybe they're trying to distract from her broken nose or whatever. Which is funny. Which is funny because like in Real Housewives, we had to deal with her broken nose, and that was the whole plot.
Tim, Tim, we all went through it together. Tim went through it, I went through it by proxy. It's very similar to how
I don't think she has a nose ring.
Maybe I'm crazy then. I apologize if there's no nose ring in this.
Chat, can you write into KindaFunny.com you're wrong if she has a nose ring or not?
Kevin, I'm putting something in assets.
Let's put it in assets. Tim, it's very similar
I don't know.
in Suicide Squad when they decided to put the writing on Will Smith's collar to distract from how bad the movie was.
There we go. Let's continue with the plot.
That's why I tell you, Harley Quinn has so many tattoos.
Exactly.
Like, add another one. That job was terrible. Pull one more.
Keep putting it up there. Eventually, we'll get so far it'll be funny. At Haddonfield Memorial, we cut back over with Karen and Allison have submitted Lori to the emergency surgery, and man, they get graphic on this one. Again, didn't think they needed necessarily to do this, but I guess they needed the audience to know that Lori is in fact out of commission. We also get a banger return of Sheriff Barker, who just seems like he doesn't either care what's going on or have a full grasp of what's going on, or maybe he's just like, tomorrow's my day off. And
also, like, again, this is a trend that I think this movie has, of like showing you something, but then also adding something that seems unnecessary that almost diminishes it. So like we saw the scene with Tommy making his speech. It's like, okay, this is supposed to achieve something, but I don't know if the filmmaking is. They have a very graphic depiction of the surgery that is having to take place just because of the stabbing, and I'm like, okay, well, it's a horror movie.
Later she can say it's just a scratch.
Well, but like
we know it's not.
But the thing is, it's like, I get it. People get stabbed all the times in movies, and unless you see their heart stop, they're not dead. Like, right, like it happens. Right. So they're showing you the intensity. That all makes sense. But then the doctor is like narrating the surgery, and he's like, "She'll be fine." I mean, barely nick the surface.
As like. This is what doctors do when they do surgeries, and then whoever the nurse is like making note of, because you know.
But that's why I thought it was weird, is because wouldn't you just be like I feel like you could have just had intense music and showing her like struggling to survive as doctors are scrambling to put her organs back into place, but to have a voiceover of a doctor that's also saying we're just going to staple her up seemed weird. It just seemed unnecessary.
It was very weird. Also, when you contrast that with her immediately being pretty okay in the next scene, you're like, I don't know how I don't know what to feel about the intensity of this, because you saw someone with their abdominal like ripped open,
but like she seemed okay. But I think that there was like an adrenaline running, and like if they kept that up the whole movie, I'd be a little more like upset about it. But like we see her break down eventually, where she's just like, I can't keep going. I'm fucked, and I need help. And like that,
we get a scene where Allison's like so obviously this is play where they're like, we don't want to tell, when she wakes up, we don't want to tell her that Michael's still alive, or maybe actually they don't know at this point whether he's alive or not. But the word gets back to the bar over there that Hawkins is in trouble or whatever, and Lonnie gets word about that, and then the APB goes out, the emergency thing goes out, hey, everyone's dying, and all of a sudden it's known in the hospital, and Judy Greer freaks out. We also get a scene for her, great acting, where she starts actually processing the death of her husband.
She does have a nose ring.
A nose ring for sure.
There it is. 100%.
Just
good job, Nick.
Saying, everyone. You guys want to say,
hard to
you guys always say, I don't pay attention to things. And it's true.
But you're going really hard like on the nose ring, and like Joey has a nose ring.
I do.
I like Joey's nose ring, but Kyle Richards doesn't have a nose ring. First off, I didn't even notice Joey.
She's a little edgy.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Joey has a nose ring?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's had it for a long time.
I don't know that.
I've had it since like the day I went to college.
I mean, again, guys, I'm not throwing shade at nose rings. I don't dislike nose rings. I don't have a problem with nose rings like I do with people wearing wigs in films. It's not a big issue to me. It just was weird on the close-up. I was like, just wearing a nose ring. That's a choice.
Nick needed something to talk shit about Kyle Richards to me about.
I actually thought she did a very good job in this film for not having acted in a very long time that I know of. Right? I don't know
she acts all the time. Okay, the bold and the beautiful.
Acting out is different than acting. That's my only share.
I appreciate it.
No, I thought she did a good job, and I do like the fact that she actually lives through this. But we're not quite there yet. We're going to cut back over to this is going to be hard because we cut back and forth a lot. I'm not quite sure timing wise what's going on, so I'm just going to kind of go off of this a little bit. Upon hearing all the news, Vanessa, who I think is the nurse, which by the way, I love that comedic beat where her husband is, I want to say Lance, maybe? No, I don't know. Her husband is dressed as a doctor, and she's like, no, he's a nurse, and I'm a doctor. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, she has that to her car, and then thinks, oh, my God, Michael's there, and then runs back in, and everyone comes out, and this is what starts the mob mentality. Tommy grabs a baseball bat. He's like, I'm going to go take care of this guy. And Tim and I look at each other. I'm like, if you're going to walk up to a car Michael Myers is in, walk from a different angle than head on, because this dude's going to plow you down. We know he can kill you.
I was saying, this begins the the idiocracy of Haddonfield. Like you're like, okay, so is this the behavior we can expect? 'Cause I'm definitely not on the page of trying to exact your vigilante justice against something that is clearly not Michael Myers.
Right.
So
yeah, this guy's like, so anyway, the car ends up getting away, and then bang into a pole, and I think we see it's the guy from the prison at this point, and we're like, that's it's actually that's where I got kind of really interested in that particular plot line, where I was like, oh shit, they're gonna hunt this guy down, and that's kind of sad. You feel bad for the guy because he's not Michael Myers. He's not that we know.
We don't know what he did. We don't know what he did to get in the same place.
That's true.
Held the umbrella.
That's true. Maybe
he's a penguin.
He stole someone's Pokemon cards. You know what I mean? We don't know.
Never forget.
Never forget, Tim. Never forget. The guy's always back here. Right back here. Never over here. No one knows what we're talking about right now except for me and Tim and those people that listen to that one particular podcast where Tim talks about that kid that stole Pokemon cards. Let's see. Tommy arranges this is where Tommy starts putting together the mob. He just goes around and he starts giving the world's worst speeches to people. And it's like, I get it. It's a small town. Everyone knows Tommy, so you got a shorthand here. Like if I was like, Joey, we got to go kill someone, Joey would be like, enough said, Nick. I trust you with my life, and I understand that if we have to go kill someone with this old baseball bat, I'm fucking ride or die for you right now. Let's go get Kevin. And I will know Kevin is on a date with Paula. They're getting fondue. We can't touch him right now.
I think something that's weird about this
would come on.
something that's weird about this too, again, in theory should work. But I think a lot of they have victims from 2018 that I feel like they had the mother of Oscar show up and do nothing, right? She's like, "Where's my little boy?" And later on, she sees her little boy. Mm-hmm. If that had happened earlier, and she's like, "He killed my son," those are like I feel like the kinds of things that you need in support of Tommy's ranting.
Absolutely.
Instead, we have the guy in the cat bodysuit who like is there the whole time and has a gun, and he's like, and I'm like, have you really been touched by the shadow of Michael Myers?
No, this guy's just trying to kill someone.
They're drunk, guys. We need to remember a lot of these people are drunk.
Okay.
My favorite is when he pulls over to like the stop and go, the AM PM, and he talks to the two dudes that look like they helped Edward Furlong out in Terminator 2, where he's like, get this fucking guy, like the boat out. I'm these random. And then we come in on the tail end of Tommy, like, what I tell you guys, right? Gotta protect our town, right? Yeah, go kill this guy. And they're like, yeah, fuck, let's kill this guy.
At first, I was like, "Oh, I really like this turn of events because it's in reaction to what we just saw happen in the first movie." And the idea, at first, I thought he was like, he can't kill us if there's so many of us. We get this group together,
cool concept,
and
right?
He can't kill 20 of us. But then it's like, go 3 of you go that way.
Yeah.
2 of you go that way.
Hold on,
4
wait.
of you go that. And
Here,
I'm like,
take a bat and a small knife.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is nothing. There's no strength in numbers because you're assembling, but then you're sending everyone out to go get murdered.
And then most of them just go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And just crowd the lobby.
And so I was like, oh, that's where it failed for me.
So,
which was almost used as a litmus test of like, Tommy shows up, is like, "Hey, I need you guys to help me kill a guy," and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in." It's like, okay, red flag. No.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly.
But it's not just kill a guy. It's to kill Michael Myers, who is confirmed now to be back and killing firemen. Like, and at Laurie's house, like anybody in the town, especially of this group we've seen, know that story. And it's like, fuck, the boogeyman is back. It's confirmed.
We cut back over to some of Laurie Strode's neighbors who, I don't know if they think highly of their neighbor or not, because they're like, her house is on fire right now, and the husband seems to be like, gosh, she's been a little bit of a nuisance, but his wife's like, you leave her alone, right? She's a badass. These two actors have been in a bunch of stuff. I can't pull what one of them was in, specifically the husband, but he's been in so many sitcoms throughout the years. Anyway, man, they die a horrible death.
Doesn't she say, like, don't let Laurie hear you say that she'd kick your ass?
Yeah, something like that. She has a great banger line when she comes to Laurie's defense here.
This sequence I actually really liked, and it reminded me a lot of what we were talking about in 2018, where the movie introduces characters and they only have like a page and a half to endear you to them because they're gonna be brutally murdered, right? It's the same with the babysitter and Julian in the first one. And
this is like the father son in the car.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And I thought some of the other ones in this didn't work, but I thought that this one did work because like I was like there is a point where you're like, oh, but I like them so much that they can't die.
Yeah.
Right. And then they die.
They're an elderly couple that hang out at home playing with a drone.
They're so great. They're so great, and they die. Boy, how do they die? And Michael Myers really enjoys dying them.
Yes.
Like
specific. I think the most gruesome kill of the whole movie is how he kills the wife in this, where he breaks off one of those fluorescent bulbs and then stabs her through the neck with it.
I was shouting ECW. I was ECW, ECW, ECW.
No way that actually works though, right? Like the fluorescent bulb would give. It would give.
No, it does. There's a dude, Nick Gage. I'm gonna show myself. Nick Gage, who is an extreme wrestler or whatever, almost died by bleeding out because he fell onto a fluorescent tube that had broken almost that exact same way.
Jesus Christ!
Stabbed into like his arm or whatever, and they started bleeding out.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge.
No,
you got it for that. I will immediately wipe that out of my brain.
New fear in the
forever.
Let's see. This is where Cameron comes back. He syncs up with Allison, and they all decide to join Lonnie for the hunt of Michael, and they all get all weaponed up. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a good first step. Allison, of course, agrees. Yeah, despite her mother saying, hey, this is not our fight. We can't kill this guy. We tried to already. It didn't work, which, by the way, is a very valid criticism of her plan in this. Hey, we tried. We trapped this guy in a basement. We did everything we could. We had a plan, and it didn't work. You guys are going away, no pun intended, half-cocked in this, and it's not going to work out well. Spoilers, it does not. But Allison decides to take matters in her own hands and avenge the death of her father, and so she grabs a shoddy Bugatti and heads off with Lonnie and Cameron. Lonnie, dad of the year in this one, right? Hey, let's put my son in. Oh
my gosh. Yeah. I wish I had a stopwatch to time Lonnie's attempt. We'll get to it later on, but Lonnie's like, I'll handle this, kids. And then I wish there was a stopwatch to see how long he lasted in that house.
I was honestly disappointed it took Cameron that long.
It's premature ejaculation. It's only premature if you. I'm not going to say the rest of it. It's premature ejaculation. Squirt, squirt. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Premature Ejaculation Podcast. Here, we didn't have any for Halloween Kills 2018, but where do we want to put Lonnie going up there, just blowing his load really quickly and getting killed within 20 seconds of walking into the Michael Myers house?
I think that so far at least we haven't been ranking the ejaculations themselves, but we are just counting them. We're currently at 2. I say we put it on the board. I say at the very least it gets an honorable mention. So I'm going to put it 2, and then in parentheses honorable mention Lonnie.
Good. Got it. Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, there we go. What was it? It was Bob from the other one too, right? Bob from Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Nick's making his own notes.
And then what? Michael Myers' sister's boyfriend.
Right, Myers. Yeah. Right, cool.
Wow.
Okay, perfect.
Good. Now that's done. Good.
Judith's boyfriend.
There it is. Back to the plot, everyone. If you're still with us after that amazing song, they go all vigilante. We catch back up with Lindsay, Marion, Vanessa, and Marcus, who are in the car. They're immediately attacked by Michael, and man, they do not fare well in this situation.
This is real bad, guys. Like, come on.
This is an
I did like the hand callback though.
Oh yeah.
Camera, like he's gonna smash the window. I was hoping he was still gonna have a wrench.
It was weird that he's like, I recognize you. I'm gonna climb up on a car the way I haven't in 40 years.
it goes back to her point from like Michael Myers from the very first movie. He loves that. He's like, oh my god, it's her. I gotta do it. Like, I gotta do the thing. Halloween time. Smash is gonna love this.
Dude, I mean, I do love the theatricality of Michael Myers in these.
Theatricality and deception, man.
Exactly.
I think my favorite one was like him getting her to shoot herself.
Oh my god!
Oh, that was kicking the door.
Awesome.
Wicked. We did skip a part here because these are the 2 or the 3 kids. One of them has already been killed, but these are the 3 kids that trolled Big John and Little John, which means that I did unfortunately skip over what I would refer to as the best, most entertaining part of this movie, and it could have been a movie all by itself. Big John and Little John smoking weed during Halloween over in the Myers house.
Dancing in their robes, as you do on Halloween.
I mean, Joey, you're in the Myers house, you're in the spirit. He puts on that fun song where he's like, I thought we were going to watch a movie. He's like, no, I want to listen to this spooky music and smoke weed in my underwear. And I'm like, this sounds like a fucking awesome Halloween. Am I wrong? Shout out
these yuppies, no dual income, no kids. They're loving their life in the Myers house. Right? Yeah.
You can smoke weed all night, eat candy. Kids going to wake up in the morning. It's fantastic. I do want to give a shout out to Michael McDonald here. Not the singer Michael McDonald, of course, but Michael McDonald, the comedian from, I believe, Mad
2016's Ghostbusters. Oh, yeah.
Ghostbusters. And he was also, of course, Tim in The Heat, starring Sandy Bullock. And
also in Austin Powers, which returns, is homaged in this movie later on.
There we go.
Oh my God, that's right. Anyway, they were great.
I think Big John is the most gruesome death.
Oh, the one where he gets in the armpit.
You see the eyes pop out.
Yeah.
Like I've seen eyes pop out and move in like other horror movies. This one is like the worst one.
Yeah, it's pop. Yeah,
I don't know how this one was so. Yeah, and like you see his head like starting to squish, and then the eyes roll out.
There's one moment where they cut to his face, though, and you hear him doing. It reminds me a lot of James might be the actually Chris will get this too. The Arnold Schwarzenegger's face in Total Recall when he gets sucked out, but it's so obviously a fake, like a fake dummy. So they cut to it, and you heard Big John screaming, but his mouth wasn't moving. He was like, and his mouth was like it was stuck there. But either way, it doesn't matter because it was fucking oozing eyeball goo. Which was tremendously great.
It's funny you brought up Schwarzenegger when they're in the flashback when you see all the cops. It almost to me like sounded like there was a Schwarzenegger cop. Like it was like just the weird the guy who's like let's get him, but like it sounded like let's get him, and I'm like
late 70s.
Yeah. Is that Arnold?
I mean, Chris, everyone sounded like Arnold.
Is he gonna do a fucking cameo in this? Or just Arnold is a cop from
that would have been guys. Like, your clothes, give them to me.
Yeah.
That's how Michael got captured. It was the Terminator. I'm like, okay, I could buy that.
Haddonfield, born and raised.
What did he do in the newest one? Where it's like, yes, I do rugs. What the hell was it? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they get killed very gruesomely. Of course, Kyle Richards ends up escaping just by the hair on her chin, or by the gold on her nose ring. We cut back over to the hospital where Hawkins and Laura have a little moment. Laura, and this is where I think it's discovered that she's like, I have to kill him. And Hawkins like, no, I have to kill him. And she's like, no, he come after me. He goes, no, he didn't come after you. The freaking doctor took me to your house. I don't even think Michael knows who you are. And Laurie's like, what? He doesn't know who I am? That's a bummer, right? Kind of a big realization here. Again, playing with those themes of like, did we manifest these fears? What's going on? Cool stuff here. They have a little smoochy point where he's like, remember that time we made out? And I'm like, in my headcanon, it was a few years after Michael was there because Laurie, probably 16 years old in the original one. Hawkins, a deputy, at least 18 years old. Let's put him. We'll move him over to the 20s. We alluded to the fact that Laurie had a couple husbands before this, so she had a little bit of an active social life after this whole thing.
Well, they say. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just say, Nick. It's in the Wikipedia here. It says Hawkins is implied to be Karen's father. I did not get that.
I didn't.
They had a moment where they did say something like that.
Yeah. No,
really.
I was gonna make a joke about it. I didn't think it was a real thing.
I think someone's being liberal with the Wikipedia. I don't remember like that being because I remember her saying, "Oh, we never truly became a thing because you still had something for Ben
and
like, the person who was the person that her friend was going to embarrass her with or whatever, right in the first movie." And I was like, "Oh, it's a reference." So I mean, they would have had to been real young, I guess.
Because he even mixes. He's like we kissed and like we held hands, and I wish that we could have gone more.
Yeah,
it makes it seem like it stopped there. It was a fling, and then she moved on.
Premature ejaculation. Does this count?
I don't know. Kissed
handholds. Kissed held hands. Still got pregnant.
I'm sorry.
We'll put it on the board.
Number 3, Hawkins. We'll put it Hawkins. Back in the day.
How it worked in the 70s.
Back in the day. Perfect. Lonnie's number 2. But wait, do we put Lonnie number 1?
We're not ranking.
We're not ranking.
No. Well, I have to rank them.
Judith's boyfriend number 1. Judith's boyfriend number 1.
It was like 5 seconds.
Yeah, because he was able to go upstairs and downstairs and just like he was out of there.
And then we'll put Bob. We'll put Hawkins at we'll put Lonnie number 2, then Bob at number 3, then Hawkins back in the day at number 4. I know we're not ranking them, but in my list, Tim, that's how I ranked them. At this point, Tommy starts getting other people together, and there's a big old mob here. We do see Oscar with the piercing in his lip just totally screwed up, and his mom's like, "Oh my god, my son!" And he's like, "Well, your son ate a lot of guacamole." And then Tommy, at this point, I think at this point, this is where Lance Tovoli is the name of the character. The other escaped prisoner kind of stumbles in and like, oh my God, that's Michael. And then they start forming a mob around them. And then Karen finally realizes, oh God, that's not Michael. Like her and Laura are like, that's not Michael. And Karen's like, oh, I'll save you. Of course, she puts him up into like the little passage way between the hospital wings, locks him in there. I maybe would have locked myself in there too. But like, hey, stop. Not him.
And she's, oh, good.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No.
Oh. No.
I was just going to say, she's like, I'm not going to let them get to you. But then she just kind of stands there and lets them get to him.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't like...
She doesn't put herself in front of the door or
she didn't say, he's not 6'6". Like, yes. Nothing about this meets the description. He's clearly crazed and scared. Like,
it's completely ridiculous. But this scene had to happen because, of course, sorry, go ahead, Elise.
Sorry, what I thought was going to happen was he's going to be locked into that little hallway, and the mob's coming at him from one side, and I thought the door behind him was going to open and Michael was going to come in and murder him, but then she would have locked him in there and they couldn't get in.
Right.
And I was kind of disappointed when that didn't happen. Yeah. I thought it'd be a cool moment, but
guys, we didn't do this scene right. All of us should have been chanting "Evil Dies Tonight" while
oh right, Evil Dies Tonight.
This has been like 20 times.
Yeah, also, there's several points in this where a mob of people at the hospital like run riding, and the first time it happens, if I recall, Lori, she's like, I gotta go, and then she gets knocked down, and they're like, you gotta get back in bed because you're gonna pull your stitches or whatever. The person who knocks her over is a doctor, which I thought was hilarious, who was shouting "Evil Dies Tonight" and crashed into her.
Right.
Well, actually, I have a question about that. I couldn't tell. Almost to me, it looked like Lori knees him in the gut to like put him down because he falls too, and then she's like, "Oh shit, I ripped my stitches." But then he kind of gets up and goes. I'm like, so yeah. I couldn't tell if she's like I'm just trying to check dudes.
But it's just funny because he was a doctor, but he's like got caught up in this, and then
another doctor runs Karen over.
Yeah, and then I was going to say, when they're going up the stairs, Karen's going up the stairs, pleading with people to stop, and then another doctor in his full scrubs or whatever just basically elbow checks her to the ground.
There's been people in Dr. Halloween costumes. We don't know.
True, very true. Very true.
There's no actual doctors at the hospital.
Good point. They were like this.
All just the nurses.
They're like, that surgery went really well, right, Tim? Yeah, we fucking YouTube that. It was awesome.
Nailed it.
Evil Dies Tonight.
Nick just rolls in. It's like, I've played Surgeon Simulator. I know how this works.
I'm a cop doc.
He's like, take his leg off. Take his leg off.
Put his head back on his leg. Of course, Lance ends up jumping out the window because he's terrified of this angry mob that's going to kill him, and he's just looking for help, and then smashes his head like a pumpkin on the sidewalk. I love and / hate this. It's so gory and horrifying, but it does remind me of a pumpkin that when Tommy got pushed over and the pumpkin smashed underneath him, it had the same feel and sound to it. I was like, oh God. Of course, Tommy sees that, realizes he's screwed up, and tells Karen like, yo, I'm gonna go fix this. And Karen's like, you're probably not. But
this reminds me. We didn't talk about it in the beginning, but the title sequence of seeing the pumpkin.
I wanted to bring
the many pumpkins and the final pumpkin of it being on fire. I was like, this is so rad. Like they nailed the assignment here.
I wish jack-o'-lanterns were like this. Like, just go full Sleepy Hollow. Jack-o'-lanterns are just on fire. Like, not a little one inside. I want the whole thing on fire. Let's go.
We did theorize what the last one will be for Halloween Ends. We have a theory that they're gonna set off an explosive and shoot it in super slow motion. So it's essentially going to be either forward or in reverse, all the pieces of an explosion coming back to form a pumpkin, or a pumpkin that is slowly expanding into evisceration.
I love it.
We're calling it here.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. Of course, here, Karen, I think at this point, or Lonnie at this point has realized, like, hey, I think all Michael really wanted to do was go home. So they go back out to the house. Of course, this is where we get the scene with Big John and Little John. Well, I'll be honest with you guys again. I love these two.
Yeah.
There's a moment where he goes, Big John, someone's in my house. And Big John thinks about leaving for a second and goes, fuck that. Takes off his silk robe and picks up the world's smallest paring knife. And he's like, I got this fucking knife.
He puts down the golf club. One ring.
Yeah.
Second ring. Necklace.
Yeah.
I did like that. Big John got the little knife and Little John got the big knife.
The big knife.
Yeah. Also, for anyone who's just listening and hasn't seen the film yet, Big John is small and Little John is big.
Yes. And they are two phenomenal characters. They get just brutal.
I love the Marco Polo.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Oh, yeah.
Big John.
Yeah.
Except that they heard something upstairs, and I don't understand why only Big John went, like Little John was in the dining room or whatever. It's like, you guys just heard something upstairs. I feel like you would go upstairs. It's one of those things too, like Elise was saying, it's like, you can't necessarily subvert the tropes if you're going to fall victim to them constantly. Like, it's so cool. It's a town full of people that are going to hunt Michael Myers. Becomes less cool when it just becomes 2 or 3 people off on their own in a dark park in the middle of nowhere getting victimized by Michael. You've just now become more generic of a horror movie, you know? Yeah. So I love them, but it does suck that it ended in such a trope way. And then, of course, Big John gets brutally murdered. And then Lil John does the thing that a lot of people do in this movie where they see someone's hurt and then they throw their weapon away and they fall to them to check on someone that's clearly dead.
Bad idea.
Well, Michael Myers doesn't even have to sneak up. Like, he's just standing there. And then they do the Austin Powers thing where he's at the other side of the room and then Michael Myers starts walking towards him and you just see...
Oh, Michael.
And he just goes... like all that's missing is the slow Zamboni of a thing coming at him. Like,
that's so true.
Like, run, try to get him.
Yeah.
Over in the park, I think Tommy and Karen find Kyle Richards, and she's like, "I survived," and they're like, "Okay, cool." I think they bring her back to the hospital. Well, so everyone gets back to the hospital eventually, and then we get the showdown at the Myers house where Allison, Cameron, and Lonnie arrive, and Lonnie's like, "You know what, guys? I just realized this is a terrible situation to put 2 teenagers in. You guys are going to stay in the car. No, Lonnie, drive us back somewhere safe. Like, what are you doing? You're clearly drunk. You're drinking something out of a coffee mug that could be coffee or could be more bourbon. We don't know. I will say, I really like this actor. I think the actor that plays Lonnie did a great job being in the scene. And I think he has some of the most compelling moments, specifically because you get that he's got more than just the demon of Michael Myers haunting him. He also might be flashbacking to some LSD trips he took with Ray back in the day. We don't know. We get a great scene there where she does talk about Ray, though. She's like, your dad and I used to fucking party real hard, and Allison has a great cry about it. She's a great actor also. Anyway, he ends up going in.
Her dad died hours ago.
3 hours ago.
And she's got a shotgun in her hand going to...
He's in Ozark, right?
He's in Midnight Mass.
Oh, yeah, he's in all.
Guys, he's in Down Periscope. We already figured this out.
He's the guy with the dog. He's the guy with the dog. Yeah, he's also in Hill House as well.
Yeah,
he's really good. He's really good. Yeah, anyway, he goes in and just we don't even.
I do wish the kids are gonna stay in the car. He gets up and then the kids immediately get. I wish they immediately got out with him. Yeah, we'll do that for 3 seconds and we're coming in.
Yeah,
but he's like, if you see something strange, honk the horn.
Yeah. What's that gonna do for you, Big Dad?
He goes in. Yeah, he goes inside. You hear, ah!
Anyway, we hear one gunshot, and Allison and Cameron are like, we got to go in there. They run in. Allison kind of finds the couple while Cameron decides to go, hey, you know what? I'm just going to search the rest of the house. You got this, right? Goes over, searches one room, comes back over, sees blood dripping from the ceiling, looks up and sees his father dead, stuck in one of those the attic stairs that Clark Griswold got stuck up in Christmas Vacation. And then Michael Myers comes out of nowhere and just destroys him, and he barely gets a couple shots off at the guy.
He comes out of the closet.
Oh, right. It does come out of the closet.
There's a closet at the end of the hall, and he just opens the door and just starts charging. So that was pretty cool.
Cameron's like, oh, no, and just starts shooting blindly off into the air or whatever. It doesn't matter. Can't even get a shot off. Meanwhile, the Allison with the shotgun's like, what's happening in there? It's only one room away, but I might as well be an ocean. Cameron gets destroyed. Allison comes at Michael with a knife for some reason. I think he disarms her, and then she comes after him with a knife, and then he throws her down the stairs, breaking her leg, and she has to watch while he twists Cameron's head through the banister and then twists it off.
Well, so she pulls the knife out of Little John.
Yeah.
And goes for Michael and stabs Michael. But the one that really pissed me off is that Cameron is stabbed, and then he pulls the knife out of him with Michael standing a foot away, and then just puts the knife down.
Yeah.
Start stabbing him in the leg, and then give Allison a shot. I'm like, he just puts it down. I'm like, oh no.
I feel like it's our responsibility to tell people, if you get stabbed, leave the knife in.
Yeah.
Yes.
The odds of you bleeding out from pulling out the knife are much higher than.
Yeah. It's like a cork. It's like a cork for a bottle of wine. You keep that knife in, it can stay good forever.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably like human instinct of I have this thing in me, I need to get it out. Like
there's just again, there's a lot of incompetence from the people of Haddonfield because like there's no reason Allison, she goes into the room and finds a cool moment and leading to the theatrics of Michael Myers.
The photo
finds a photo of Little John and Big John together happily alive at a park sitting together, and Michael clearly saw it and set their corpses up to be in the same pose. And it's
like
actually
it.
it's really cool, and she's like weirded out by that. But then for some reason she sees a knife in Little John and she pulls it out, and I'm like, she sets her shotgun down and she says, what is this? And I'm like, it's a knife. Like,
that's weird.
there was no reason for that to happen unless they wanted her to stab him later. And it was like, it just didn't make any sense. And then of course she puts it like in her pants pocket, and then she takes the shotgun and like I don't know. The geometry of the room didn't make sense.
She uses the shotgun downstairs because they check a closet first because they see there's a light in there. She blasts it in there.
That's right. She does.
We can make the headcanon that's the only shot in the shotgun. So when she goes upstairs, she's like, "This is empty." And then when she hears Cameron scream, that's when she grabs the knife.
But she still tries to shoot Michael Myers. When Cameron getting his ass beat, she still takes the gun and tries to shoot him, and then Michael Myers grabs it away because you can only shoot someone from point blank range in this world. So like, it was just like a weird, again, clunky way of getting to the end result of them having failed miserably in their task of getting Michael.
I was surprised they killed Cameron. I didn't see that coming, like, especially with how he was in the last movie. Yeah, good riddance, but like I didn't expect it. And I want to give credit to these movies when they genuinely surprised me with something. I thought that based on how he was in the last movie, where he had a real quick heel turn that was bizarre as shit, and then him returning in this one, I was like, oh, there has to be some type of redemption between him and her. Nope, not at all. He's just fucking dead. Bye head. Chris Anka.
I do want to give Cameron one, like not Cameron a shout out, but the story is shout out of the fact that when Allison sees him, and he did make out with a tiger lady 4 hours ago, but her dad just died 2 hours ago, and it's like, this is my boyfriend. Adds up to 2 hours ago. This was my boyfriend, and she's like, I'll deal with the cheating thing tomorrow.
Right.
And so I like that she was kind of like, we're good for right now, and they just sort of like roll back into it because it's like, I'm going through a lot of things. Let's not deal with the fact.
There's a hierarchy of issues that we have to deal with.
You're making out with Tiger Lady is like, that's tomorrow.
A little lower now than it was 2 hours ago before all of our friends got horribly massacred.
One of the weird thing about the Cameron stuff is that they make such a point of showing him just drooling, but like with drooling instead of blood coming out of his mouth. That they're like, that was one of the things that I noticed. I'm like, well, he's clearly not dead, and that felt like a little bit weird until after when he actually does snap his neck.
I think he had snapped his spine, so I think he was like, he had some level of like paralysis, which was why he like couldn't move, and then he just decided to finish him off and snap his neck.
They did. I think that was part of the fun stuff of the kills in this though too, because like even that old couple, like the woman gets stabbed in the throat, bleeds into it, gets it pulled out, and then they still make a point of saying that she is still kind of waiting to die as she has to witness this stuff. So I think they realize that sometimes the horror isn't an instant death. Like it's the same as the podcast dude in the hospital or in the bathroom or when he's getting smashed and like still kind of watching. Like sometimes I feel like that is more disturbing, and in this case, it was for me for sure.
For sure, right? Especially as we kind of glossed over the fact that Michael set her up so she could watch him test out knives on her husband's dead corpse until he found one that he liked the action on.
There's this shot of it. He like stabs him, and then he looks at it. Yeah, and he looks back at the other knives, like, no, let me try this one.
This one.
Like he's taking some time to like.
He has a preference, clearly.
The camera.
Yeah, go. You go.
To the Cameron death, I think like Allison had just stabbed him, so I could definitely see it of like, no, I'm gonna drag this shit out. Like normally I killed him I just stab him in the neck or something. I'm gonna drag Cameron's death out, and you gotta watch. So it's like he's doing it kind of inefficiently. If he's like banging Cameron against the pole of the barristers, and it's just kind of like he does it like 8 times, and it's like no, he's still not dead. Cause like you're not like I haven't punished you enough. So I kind of like that. It's kind of an inefficient killing because you just like I want you to watch this.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is where we catch up Michael coming down the stairs to kill Allison, and she's like, just do it. And you're like, wait a minute, is she talking to Michael or is she talking to Karen? And Karen's there with the pitchfork from the little setup outside, and Karen stabs him in the back, and Michael goes down, and Karen's like, it'd be better than Michael having a pitchfork in his back. I'll just take this pitchfork out. That'll be fine. And then I think she like kicks him in the face and was like, there you go, Michael. That's what you get. I'm like, stab him in the head with the pitchfork.
Have we learned nothing?
This is where I started getting really frustrated with this movie because I was like, that people need their brain, right? Like you got to start putting some head damage on this guy, or he's just gonna keep getting up later into the later rounds. For Christ's sake. Anyway, he does get up, and I believe he gets away, and I forget what happens.
No, she takes his mask.
Takes the mask.
Oh, right.
Instead of finishing him, she's like, "What about your mask? Got your nose?"
Right.
And then she runs off.
And he's like, "Lady, Jesus, do you want to die?"
It's a gamble because he could have just turned around and killed her daughter.
Which is why it makes everyone seem so stupid.
It's a gamble.
I think the point is like, I have your face. You've made such a big point of like, you always need your mask. I have your mask, and she's goading him too. She's like yelling at him like, "You want this, right?" And so he just focuses on her. I mean, it's to lead him to the next street over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a plan.
Where the mob is waiting, right?
Yeah, because the mob is over, then she does the whole gotcha scene. But it's like I think she's trying to drag him out. Or she could have just stabbed him in the head there and just been
probably could have just finished him off there, I think. But anyways, he rounds the corner and walks right into the mob, but she's left, if memory serves correctly, she's left his mask in the middle of the road. We know that Michael Myers is kind of powerless without the mask, but let's give it back to him. Why not? Let's even the odds here. Meanwhile, it's a quiet scene, and faintly in the back, one of the drunk guys goes, "Evil dies tonight."
Anyone can cook.
No, Fred. Not yet. Anyway, this scene goes about how you would expect, where at first they beat Michael's ass, but because, again, nobody understands that bullets can go through skulls as well, they just shoot him a bunch in the back and beat him up with baseball bats.
They're like, and now for the killing blow, and they like stab him in like the softest part of the human body.
Yeah. We'll just stab him right next to his head, and he'll understand. He'll get the deal. Anyway, he gets up and just fucks everyone up, including Tommy.
To the point of earlier, they have that moment of, I forget who says it, but it's after the mental patient kills himself. Someone's like, "Oh, like it was Laurie," because there's like Michael's greatest trick is that we're all becoming monsters.
Right.
Yeah. So you could make an argument. It's probably in the script of like they don't want to do the killing thing because like that makes us him.
Fair,
so they're all trying to hold back, but they did
like death by 1,000 cuts kind of a thing.
They did put like 10 rounds in his back, which like it doesn't matter. He would still bleed the fuck out.
Yeah. Bodysuit Catman did not hold back.
No, Bodysuit Catman. Do we think that Bodysuit Catman had any idea what they were doing, or was he just like, I have been rolling for 3 days straight?
He was like a 22-year-old dude. Like he looked like he went to Haddonfield University or whatever. And
yeah,
was drunk
and just
from Haddonfield.
Anyway, Michael kills all of them. Lastly, he kills Sheriff Brackett and then turns the baseball bat onto Tommy, just blowing his head away with the old Huckleberry. And then we go back to the Michael Myers house to find Allison safe as the police and the pandemics have arrived. Karen is like, "Oh man, that all went well." And then she looks up an old Judas window and is like, "I wonder what the view's like from up there." And she goes up there.
She sees little Michael up in the window.
Oh, that's right. She does see little Michael.
There's been an ongoing thing about how Michael was staring at that window and knows what he was staring at. And then I forget
Haddonfield where nothing ever happened.
Hawkins was like, because the other guy was looking at that window as well. The connection was he's staring at his own reflection. He's not looking out the window. He's looking at himself. And then Karen sees little Michael up in the window.
Mm-hmm. And then she goes up there to see what that feels like, or presumably to see if she can figure out what his perspective is. And as she does so, Michael just runs right out and stabs her to death. And then elsewhere, Laurie stares out of her hospital room while Michael stares out of his window. And that is the end of Halloween Kills.
With that bit there, I do like the idea that the movies have kind of now dealt with twice with the doctor in the last movie and now with Karen, where it's like this idea of the fucked up interest in putting yourself in his shoes and like that, like asking why is he doing this? Like what does it feel like to do this and all this? And I think that like that's something I'm hoping we see dealt with more in Ends that we're getting to.
Yeah.
Elise Willems, it's time.
7 syllables in the middle.
Yep.
Got 5 for the first and last line.
Oh,
if you're not poetic, don't need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku
Yes!
in review. Haiku in review.
Nailed it.
You nailed
Amazing.
it.
Energy
Killed
of
it.
the quote.
Nice job.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. You can go to patreon.com/kindofus. It just brings me so much joy. So happy.
Channeling Michael.
Exactly. Patreon.com/kindoffunny to write your reviews in haiku form. Dunhill 1986 writes a 3-part serious haiku here, one for each of the movies in the trilogy so far.
Ooh.
So 78. Horror's beginning. The shape has taken its form. Escape in the night. 18. Trust is key to life. Trauma becomes a dark cage. But here, it's a trap. And 21. A mob fights tonight. The boogeyman has come back. But what does it take? And then he has one follow-up there. Like Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll take it.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that's not our choice to make.
Mike L. Myers in the chat. Fantastic name there. Says Myers flees the fire, massacres and stokes more ire. Their fear he admires. More sad than scary, Laurie's night just got hairy. Should learn to parry. Death comes, masked in white, killing everyone in sight. Evil dies
Tonight.
Yes. Wow, baby. Let's go.
That's great. You did great there.
We got Mario Rivera coming in saying, fumbles the message. Not looking forward to ends. This movie is bad.
Ooh, harsh.
That's a review.
Tough but fair. Tough but fair.
And then Madeline, Mad Exposure, writes in saying, can't trap or kill him. The boogeyman strikes again. Evil never dies.
Never dies.
Nice.
So there you go. Now
That's
it's time
nice.
for a thing called Ragu Bagu. Joey.
Dun 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 dun.
Ragu.
Dun 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 dun.
Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys, here for Halloween in review and therapy for you and me. It's time to be therapized. We don't have a therapist in this one, so I'm going to throw out. We'll start here and then we'll go to the Michael Myers in the movie. Where do you want to put the therapist that Laurie Strode just knees into the doctor that she knees in the dick?
Okay.
He goes down because he knocked her over and split her.
Good.
Is he a better or worse doctor than the other therapists that we've seen in this movie so far?
I wouldn't know. I would say he's not as bad as the guy who
Dr. Sartan,
who
right.
tried Sartan, but he's probably he's probably worse than Loomis.
Again, it might be a costume. We don't even know if he's a doctor.
True.
Well,
But I mean, again, our therapists, real doctors.
Yeah,
That was a joke.
Wow.
They are real doctors.
Wow.
That was a joke.
Christ, Nick.
That was a joke. They are real doctors. I believe in psychotherapy.
I like that. That's the backlash you're afraid of. Ooh, last thing we want our therapist coming.
But I'm kind of with what James is saying here, where at the end of the day, Loomis means well. This doctor, I don't know. He was getting pretty violent.
He willfully took part of a mob to kill a man.
Yeah.
In the hospital.
I think that's
violating
opposed to
some
the
sort of
Hippocratic Oath.
Hippocratic
It
oath.
is.
Thou shalt not kill thy neighbor's wife. That's a Hippocratic Oath right now. Going along, that will put him at number 2, right below Dr. Sartan, but right above Dr. Loomis. Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys. Right now, we got Michael Myers from Halloween 2018, and then followed by Michael Myers, or Michael Meyer, as I wrote here, from the original Halloween. Where do we want to put the Michael of this movie?
Elise, you teased this earlier, so I want you to kick it off.
Guys, it was off the charts in terms of the kills in this one. I loved so many of them. Him making the doctor shoot herself in the head, twisting Cameron's head in the banister. We got Big John, eyes gouged out. Like, I feel like
all the firefighters.
Fire department.
They wiped out a fire department of first responders. I just think he was like, he took on a mob. Like, I think he's number 1 for me, because just in terms of his sheer brutality and unrelenting lust for murder was the strongest in this one for me.
He John Wick's a mob.
Yeah. John Wick's a mob.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I think it's just, this is as crazy and violent as we've ever seen a Michael Myers character. So I feel like he's got to go number 1.
I think for me, this is also the most sympathetic. Despite him having a massive body count, I'm also I'm also like, this sound sucks, and they pretty much well established he's just trying to get home, guy's just trying to walk home, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think I would still put 18 over this just because I think that they kind of bungled the mob final shot of him coming out and fighting them. And it was such an easy layup for them to just knock it out of the park. But they knocked the fireman part out of the park. So it's pretty close to me. But I think he was a little more consistent in 2018. And I like that 2018 hinted at the supernatural more than this one's like, we're fucking in it, everybody. Like, here we are. And that always takes it down a little bit for me. But I'm excited that they're committing with that and that the next one's going to see where we're at. So the new Ragu Bagger as it stands, number 1, Michael Myers from Halloween Kills. Number 2, Michael Myers from 2018. And then number 3, Michael Myers from 1978. Now it is time to rank the Halloween movies. Currently, number 1, we have Halloween 2018, and number 2, Halloween 1978. Does anyone want to start this off?
Start the bidding. I will think this. This, in my opinion, sits squarely in the middle of the two. I think we should put this at number 2.
This is so tough because if I was going to choose between Halloween Kills and the original Halloween to put on, I'm probably going to put on Halloween Kills just because I feel like
definitely
there's so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. I think that's fair. I think there's things to say that sometimes things can be worse, but still enjoyable. And I would rather rank things based off its enjoyability. And I think that as much as I admire Halloween 1978, if I had the option tonight to watch one of them, I would probably pick Halloween Kills to watch, but so that's how I would value it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same camp of there's just not a lot that happens in 1978 where there is a lot of things that happen here.
Too much.
And it doesn't hit the mark on a lot of things, but there is enough entertainment and investment that I think in my current state, I would rather be entertained, than just be an observer.
Yeah, I'm in line with that too. And I think at the end of the day for me, like I was saying earlier, I'm a fan of serialized episodic movie making that is coming more normalized. I don't want it for everything, but I think when it comes to horror movies, I don't want to Get Out 2. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't work. But I want to see a Halloween sequel. And what I want from that is drastically different than what I want from the original first one. And I think that this series so far has done a good job of kind of being in unworn territory of trying something new and different for this franchise. And I'm hoping they continue that path. So I'd give it number 2 because as classic as 78 is, I still think that it being a classic is one of its greatest strengths as opposed to being entertaining and being something that is watchable and worth talking about a lot in 2021.
I agree.
Yeah.
There we go. Chris, final words?
I agree. I think it's got lower lows but higher highs, and I think it nails those highs more than it doesn't. Whereas 78 is just a solid kind of medium the whole way through, unless you really like seeing babysitters in their underwear.
And then,
did you feel like the hype? Did it serve what you wanted it to serve, Chris?
Yes, and I think going in knowing they already have a third, that there's only so much you can do with this. That won't undercut the third. And it hit exactly what I thought it was. I mean, I was actually a little surprised with the Karen death, even though I knew Karen... I was hoping Karen was going to die just for plot-wise, but I was even surprised by how they did it and how abruptly they did it. So I was more pleasantly surprised than I was in this.
And with that, everybody, we're going to end Halloween in review. The DGG universe. For now, we will return next year, pretty much 1 year from today for Halloween Ends to end it all. Remember, if you're big fans of James and Elise, they're going to come back for Scream in review. And you know what, Chris? You're invited to hang out. You started Scream 1 with us. If you want to come back for Scream 5 Cream, you're definitely welcome.
5 Cream.
Only if you don't call it that.
So the trailer, 5 Cream trailer. We were all together there. Getting ready to watch Halloween Kills, and 5 Cream trailer kicked up.
Oh yeah,
it was like they knew.
They knew. James, Elise, where can people find you?
You can find us on Funhouse and Rooster Teeth, the new season of Last Laugh on Rooster Teeth. You
watch it all now. The whole season's out. And then just in general on social media, James Willems, Elise Willems. Yeah.
Chris, where can people find you?
Twitter and Instagram at Christopher Anka.
Hell Yes. Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.